This is the One Piece Podcast, episode 785 for the week of Monday, September 4th, 2023. My name is Zach.
And my name is Ed.
And on today's episode, we have very special guest translator for One Piece in Weekly Shonen Jump and Manga Plus. We have Stephen Paul with us. How's it going, Stephen?
It's pretty good. Pretty good. I'm enjoying my Labor Day weekend. I hope everybody else is too in these states.
Yeah, and even if you're not in the States, enjoy a day off, whether you're given one or not, right? No, don't listen.
That's our gift to the world.
That's their gift. You say you have to listen to the One Piece podcast today, I'm off. We also have Eisner Award-nominee, author for Mermin, Ghost Hog, Dragon Rider. Am I missing any? I'm doing these off the top of my head.
Dragon Racer.
Racer. How are you, Joey Weiser?
Good. Yeah, I'm having One Piece more on my mind than usual this weekend, so it worked out perfectly that I get to be on the show as well.
I think you're preaching here, even for us. We also have Storyboard Supervisor and Craig of the Creek, Storyboard Artist and OK K.O, Cartoon Network alum, I guess. Dave Alegre. How are you doing, Dave?
I'm great. Hello. Thanks for having me. Wow. A long time coming.
Yeah.
At least in my head.
That's important. Yeah. Dave, no, it's great to have you here. We're going to talk more with the two of you. Well, we have another guest. We also have, she is a writer for the Mary Sue. And I think you just wrote another article for, I'm trying to remember which one now.
The Daily Beast.
The Daily Beast. Saw another one. We have Kirsten Carey with us. How's it going, Kirsten?
Hello. It's going good. I'm very excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming. So we
I like the Daily Beast. It's a news organization rated as satanic by CPAC, so you know it's good.
Ooh. Well, I mean,
it
has beast in the name.
A little extra spicy.
Yeah.
You had me at Satan.
all the Satan that's schizophrenic. Doesn't make sense. So usually what we do, and maybe we'll do an abridged version today, is when we have new guests, we ask them some questions about how they got into One Piece and their basically their favorite stuff about One Piece. We're going to be talking about the One Piece live action as well, because we'd be remiss if we did not mention the thing that everyone is talking about right now. And then we're going to talk about the most recent chapter, which I believe is entitled Sentomaru. That's chapter 1091. And then we have an exciting anime recap. Actually, exciting anime. I assume also exciting anime recap. It hasn't happened yet. For episode 1074. And then if we have time, we'll take some fan questions and comments and piece together. So first I'll say, Dave, I'll ask you first. How did you get into One Piece?
Oh my God, that was that's such a. I should have thought about this before I got on the show, but
Surprise!
It feels like literally like 70 years ago, like when that happened.
It's getting there.
The first time I ever like consumed any sort of One Piece like at all was I was living in the Philippines at the time, and pirated DVDs are like really easy to come by, and you know, part of my like routine was to just like every Friday go to the mall and just, you know, like pirated DVDs like cost like if you convert it into dollars, maybe about like $2 like a DVD. And so I used to just like save my allowance, and instead of like get food, I would just get like a random selection of like DVDs, and one of it was One Piece, but I think it was like a movie, like it was some movie. It was, and it was like a fan sub, and it was like a really bad fan sub. To this day, I don't quite remember what it was, but it was incomprehensible. Like it was just like the translations were bad.
Yeah, a lot of
like,
the bootleg ones were.
Yeah,
something.
The bootlegs, like Luffy's name was like translated as Lofi, Loffie, and like I was like, this is garbage, and like I didn't like watch
stuff.
it. Yeah. It was
it's exclusively what we talk about here.
I took it out of my brain for like 10 years, and then when I moved to the States, like I was working at like, you know, kind of a dead end job where I was doing like graphic design, and I had a lot of time on my hands to make like art assets for things. And everybody had been talking about One Piece, so I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to read all of it. Like, you know, it reached the point where I think it was around like, it was in like the Thriller Barkish area, and I had friends on like IM and like, you know, DeviantArt back in the day that were like, oh yeah, I'm really hot for One Piece. And I was like, enough people whose taste I trusted were into it, and I was like, I think I'm gonna give it a shot. And I just like watched all of One Piece up until, I would say, like the Thriller Bark-ish area in about 2 weeks. 3 weeks. It was really, really good, and I just stuck with the manga like ever since. And since then, like, you know, I joined like a forum online, and Steven, I think we were both on this at some point.
Oh,
like
probably, yeah.
There was an old forum that I also know Alex from called New Pork City. It was
I remember
Yes.
that.
I was on New Park City for a little while, and you know, like I feel like I was on DeviantArt for a long time, and then like I stopped posting online, and I just retired to New Pork City for like a good concentrated year, and I got inundated with like weekly One Piece discussion, and it was just a lot of fun. It was just a lot of fun, and it's just kind of stuck with me ever since. And realizing like how much Oda seeds things, it's like I'm really into like puzzles and like ARGs and stuff like that, and I went through like Not Prawn recently, and if for people that know, it's just like a really old and difficult like online like game that's like in your browser. But after I finished it, I was like, what am I going to do with my time? And I just transferred all that like puzzle energy to like One Piece, and trying to pick apart like all the things that like he seeded, like things that he possibly could have seeded, and applying them. Like I've become like the number one, at least in my head, of like, you know, tinfoil crackpot theories. Like I've got
place here,
so many. Like actually, I think I remember reading like was it an article or a blog post that I think you did, Zach, before about like the moon and like, you know, space travel and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's
And I
still
was
on
like,
the site. Yeah.
I was like everybody I had the same thoughts, and everybody I told, they were like, "You're crazy, Dave," and I was like, no, I'm not. There's one other person on the internet that feels that way, and they wrote it so much more eloquently than I could ever explain.
If it were me, I'd really dismiss that argument. If it were me.
But what is the stance on saltier language in this podcast? Like,
we're very pro, I think, salty language. Is that fair to say?
So if I said shit or fuck, it's okay.
Well, you've said both now, so it has to.
Yeah. I was hoping that if it wasn't, that it would get bleeped out. But yeah, I'm sorry.
We don't have
I'm
that
like
kind
rambling.
of time.
I'm totally rambling, and I don't mean to. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Was there any other part of the story, or?
I mean, like, it was just, you know, I've just become like a One Piece tinfoil hatter, and I talk about like theories about like what the Will of D is, and like I've got a pretty good guess for what the One Piece is, or what is at Laugh Tale, and you know,
that
stuff
will
like
bleep.
that. But yeah, we can talk about that some other time, or on this time if you guys need more content, because I could ramble about it for hours.
We don't want you to get shot, so
that's true.
we got to protect you here.
We don't need you to
The
be
name of the
Professor
ancient
Clover.
kingdom.
Yeah, the name of the ancient kingdom is. And then you'll be fine though after you get shot. You just will choose not to talk about it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Personal thing. Kirsten, what about you? How did you get into One Piece?
Yeah, so I got into it via a friend when I was working at Channel Frederator like 8 years ago. A friend of mine was super into it and was like, I had never heard of it at that point, and he was just like, what the hell? How is that possible? And so he showed me all the good movies that had been released up to that point, starting with Baron Matsuri in his infinite wisdom.
That's good wisdom.
And like before the first time I went to Japan, I got up to Arlong Park and liked it, but then just got busy. But then the second time I went to Japan in 2019, I was bringing my partner and my band to do a tour, and I was like, hey, you guys, you should know what One Piece is. We should watch Baron no Matsuri. And they all loved it, and it caught on, and my partner and I started watching, and just having that other person to watch it with, we shot all the way up, and COVID hit when we were at Water 7. So then it became also like a lockdown activity, which I think gave it even deeper emotional meaning to both of us. And yeah, obsessed ever since. So I'm relatively new, actually.
No, we have people from, all over the range. Yeah.
Yeah,
Steven.
far from the first person to have been on the show who got started or really caught up over
the
COVID.
pandemic.
Yeah.
It was a good time to happen to be watching One Piece when it hit.
Mm-hmm. It's true. I think that's a lot of the. I think it's at least like 30 or 40% of the reason it's become so popular today, which I'll talk about when we get to the live action segment. Kirsten, I forgot to also ask you, both offline and here, do you want to tell us a little bit about your band?
Oh, sure. We're called Throwaway. You can find us on the socials. We're at The Real Throwaway. There's a ton of different throwaways, which is very irksome for my purposes. But if you see a woman in a paper bag mask, that's my band. And we are we shout about dinosaurs and working and stuff.
Nice.
And it's a good time. Come hang out with us at shows if you live in the Midwest.
Awesome. Dinosaurs and I'll get to that later. Okay, so we also have a few questions that we have to ask new people come on. It's required. I don't know from whom, but so Dave, I'll ask you first. Who is your favorite Straw Hat?
Favorite Straw Hat?
Yeah.
Is gotta be. I think it's gotta be Frankie.
Cool.
I think it's gotta be Frankie. And it's like a conflicting answer because I'm not really a fan of like the post time skip like design for Frankie. Like it's not. It was great for like the first week, but it's a very cloying taste that like wore off very quickly. You know, I missed like the utility of it's I guess Frankie can do anything now, but I miss like the Ace Ventura hair.
Yeah.
I miss like
Here.
when he could do like a little bit. Like he wasn't just like he's basically a building now. Like, and I think
he's hard to fit in the panels.
Yeah. I feel like he's not as usable in a panel as he was before, and the gags are like very specific. But that being said, the whole concept of Frankie and that he's just like a big kid that makes a lot of like toys and weapons and stuff, and it's. I feel very close to that as like an artist or somebody that makes like content, like Frankie's only limited by his imagination, and it feels very in line with One Piece as a whole, especially chapters now and what Luffy can do, etc. It just feels it's a very emblematic thing.
You guys were just talking like last chapter how awesome it was that Frankie got to tell Vegapunk that his ship runs on cola, and he's like, "What? It runs on cola?" It's like, oh, it's so great for Frankie.
Oh
Finally.
man, I got theories about Frankie and what Egghead's gonna be like, and we can get into that later.
We'll definitely get into that later.
Yeah.
Kirsten, your favorite Straw Hat?
I'm really not usually the kind of person that says the main character, but Luffy is so great. But also I'm a huge Chopper person. It's kind of a tie, which is a cop-out. But Luffy and Chopper. Chopper for me is like Chopper's like the Drumhead Island arc is very important to me emotionally, and it gave me like a lot of vocabulary to talk about stuff in my past. So like Chopper's my boy. And Luffy is a lovely lad.
I think
both
we've
true.
often
Steven.
we've often said that like one of the great strengths of One Piece is that for so many people it is that Luffy is the best and like most interesting character, when it's so often the case in shonen that like the author can't help but make the side characters more interesting and more appealing. But somehow Oda always like Luffy's always the guy. He's so fascinating.
Yeah.
100%. Because he's so like, he just like takes up the space so well in every situation. He's so infectious and he's so funny and he's so likable, and like the optimism that he gives. Like, I think a lot of the time when a character is very like optimistic, it can feel kind of like trite, but it never feels like that with Luffy, and that also makes him the best. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard. I think Oda was saying in that discussion with Iñaki from a week or two ago, something along those lines, or someone was saying like it's so hard to find the specifics for Luffy without going too far, which is true. It's such a specific character type. I'll do this accordion style, so I want to give Dave a little chance to think of answers for these. Who is your favorite non-Straw Hat, Kirsten?
Yamato. But then also Law. Because Yamato's a newer character, it feels cheap to not toss out Law as well.
Law, I don't think would.
But yeah, I love Yamato. There are multiple Yamato figures around my house. I have a Yamato pass holder when I'm in Japan, which is a conversation starter with many people. Yeah. I've cosplayed as Yamato.
There you go.
Cool.
Yeah, those are good reasons. Dave, what about you?
It's like a dead heat. It's like a dead heat between two, and I hope it's okay to also give like a cop out answer and say like it's two people in One Piece that are my favorites. The first one, without beyond the shadow of a doubt, is Bon Clay. Like Bon Clay is just like all the stuff, and like the whole Impel Down arc. It's like, how can you not just like love Bon Clay, for everything, just like somebody that just like has like the most sincere, like, and clear and unwavering like moral compass is just, I will always be drawn to that. And similarly, strangely enough, like Blackbeard is the other, like I love Blackbeard. The only two
he has
pops,
a big
like,
moral compass.
He sticks to it for sure.
Yeah,
as twisted as it may be.
Yeah.
The only two Portrait of Pirates figures that I have are Bon Clay and Blackbeard, like, because those things are not cheap. And
No.
yeah, and actually the first time I ever met Steve Yurko was at the AX where I got the Blackbeard. Who? Yeah, some guy. heard he likes
here.
One Piece or something like that.
Not here
yeah.
right now. I think he's going to be here later, so we'll
Yeah,
pretend.
we don't know him. But was the AX that I got my Blackbeard pop, and it's great. Blackbeard is great. Like he feels like the most piratey pirate out there. He's just like really, he looks like he smells terrible, and like he there's like nothing
I have
glamorous.
actively thought that.
Yeah, he looks like he smells awful. It's like just imagining him like scratching himself, and his fingers must smell horrible.
The problem is
Like,
he only interacted with Luffy close up, and Luffy wouldn't give two shits.
yeah, he
about
wouldn't
that.
care. Yeah, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't.
So we
know.
we'll never know. And everyone
like he
else
smells
is too
like Johnny
scared.
Depp.
Yeah, the whole Blackbeard pirates and like how it feels like an inverse Straw Hat, and like how they're all just, they're all just simple to like almost, I guess, to a fault, but it's also like it's like a double-edged sword. It's the Blackbeard pirates are like my favorite pirate crew, but I don't know if that's like going ahead. But Blackbeard and Bon Clay, it's my angle and my divil.
I thought of a good SPS question, just sort of the inverse of that SPS question where somebody asked Oda how frequently all the Straw Hats bathe. You could ask how frequently all the Blackbeard pirates bathe.
Oh God, we have to
And he
submit
just says
that.
one.
We have to submit that. That's a good question. That's a good SBS question. Dave, Who is your? Well, I guess you answered this question, so I'm just gonna say it to Kirsten. Sorry. Who is your favorite antagonist?
Favorite antagonist. Does Perona count? Not really anymore, huh?
Sure.
I
why
mean,
not?
She's middle.
She was, yeah.
She was. I mean, I think in terms of like the big villains, Doflamingo to me is just chef's kiss. He's like scary, despite the fact that he looks very like glamorous. Mm-hmm. He's a terrifying
Glamorous
villain because
people
he's
can be
so
terrifying,
cunning.
too.
Yeah. And yeah, just like I also think like just like his like inhumanity and the way that he ties into the celestial dragons and that kind of entitlement and version of thinking about yourself, like he's so intriguing and loathsome. And yeah, I hate Doflamingo, but I love him.
He's the champion of evil. He's the crown.
I would have to say, like, I don't consider Blackbeard my favorite antagonist. Like, he feels like almost like he feels like a mirror instead of in terms of antagonist. I've got somebody in that spot.
Yeah.
I don't want to take it away from Joey if you've got an answer as well. I don't want to cut him off.
I'm not on the hot seat here.
No, you're on the hot seat.
All right, sweet. It's Spandam. Spandam is my favorite antagonist because
that makes sense.
I have never hated a character as much as Spandam, and it felt really good to see Robin just like destroy his testicles. It was just
that was nice.
So good.
Yeah,
like, I've never hated he was so good at being like the dude that was there that didn't deserve it and did awful things.
He really should have died. I'm still upset that he's alive. But
I think he was my number one when we did our rankings, and I
described
him.
Check.
I described him as he's the most villain because he has like the most bad qualities to him.
Yeah, that's true. Like maybe it's just on the brain, but like even Arlong, who is totally awful in all ways, he could be. He's entertaining at times, I guess, to people, or not people, fishmen. The last question, I'll ask you, Dave. What is your favorite story arc?
My favorite story arc is that's so hard.
We only ask hard questions here.
That's okay. If I had to think off the top of my head, my gut reaction would be Impel Down. I really liked Impel Down. I'm a sucker for like villains turned into like the whole RPG sort of thing where it's like we hated each other, but we're joining forces now. It's like put aside our differences and do something. And I love Magellan's design so much. Magellan is such a cool looking like villain, and we got to see a lot of Blackbeard and him doing Blackbeard things that were very and Bon Clay. There was no Spandam. Like the whole Gates of Justice thing that was like so impactful, and all the stuff with Ivankov and like the whole like the hidden level, like that was such a great it was great and it felt earned, and like it was moving at such a good pace like all throughout. I was on the edge of my seat, and like also all this, like, I'm still thinking about it to this day. Like, the whole thing about, like, what Ivankov has on Croc is, I think about it. Like, what is that thing? And, Impel Down, like, it had it all
that
for me.
And nothing in 15 years.
Exactly. It's like, I see you, Oda. It's like, I know, like, we haven't seen, like, it's going to come
we
back.
We started the show around then, the podcast around then.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah, and no, we haven't heard that answer. We started in the chapter Blackbeard and Luffy face off in Impel Down.
I see.
Back then. Kirsten, what's your favorite arc?
I'm so bad at not just throwing out toss-ups, but it is a toss-up between Whole Cake and Thriller Bark for me. But probably Whole Cake. I watched the anime first, and when it like introduces itself like a really fucked up Disney thing, I was just sold. I was like, okay, this is the best. But it also, like, I love, it is such a stroke of genius how Sanji plants this tiny little seed right before Skypia, and then it blooms into this whole arc that makes you rethink his character. And, like, and also, like, the color it added to Sanji's character for me was huge. Like, he became one of my, you know, I guess my fourth favorite Straw Hat, but who's counting?
Now, who's your third? Because you told us your first two and your fourth.
Nami.
Okay, that's right.
Cool.
That's the correct
Yeah, thank you. My partner's is Robin, so we have Robin representation in our household as well. But yeah, I like Whole Cake just has so many good moments, and it's emotional yet absurd, and the way the action is so well paced and pudding, and I love it.
I'm rereading it right now for the first time since I read it weekly, because I need to give it a fair chance. Like, I loved it, but when you read something weekly, as I'm sure everyone knows, it does feel like a very different experience. So the Sanji flashback is murder. Yeah. Okay, so we'll leave the introductions there. Why don't we take a little break and we'll go into our discussion of the live action, and then we'll do the manga.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephen.
Okay.
Hey everyone, we're here to talk about Netflix's series, One Piece, it's called. So this is kind of, I don't know. Maybe we should go back to the beginning and figure it out. I didn't really have like a specific. So Vera and Steve are going to do their own recap and discussion about each episode at a time. But I feel like I needed to talk a little bit about it. I finished it last night, so it's fresh on the brain, and I want to hear what other people think of it. Everyone here is at varying times through the series. I'll go chronologically. I think Dave is at episode 1, Steven's at 2, Ed is at like 6 or 7?
No, I finished Arlong this morning, and then I watched episode 1 in Japanese too. So I've watched.
Oh, so you finished all of it?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Joey, you just caught up, right?
Yeah, I finished it earlier, like a few hours ago. Yeah.
Okay, and Kirsten finished it twice.
Finish it. Yes.
Yeah. So Kirsten's the most ahead, so I should probably ask you first. I'll put you on the spot. No judgment. You're allowed to have any opinions except the wrong ones. Kirsten, what did you think? I guess the appropriate question is like, what did you think of the series overall?
Yeah, I mean, I have complicated emotions about it. I mean, I think it's like mixed positive. Like overall, I think they did a really good job. I think the Straw Hats in particular, I really liked. Helmeppo, oh my god. Buggy, oh my god. And there were just like, there were very good moments of like fun humor. My favorite fight in the series is probably Zoro versus Booth at the Barati. And
It was an epic one.
Yeah. Truly understated and epic. But yeah, my qualms with it, I did not. It was slightly better the second time around, and I have also started watching it in Japanese again, and it bothers me less in Japanese too, but the guy playing Garp did not sell as Garp to me.
Interesting.
And I
think the problem with Garp also lies in the fact that his role has changed so much, so it doesn't really feel like him.
Yeah,
he's a different.
It's a different character.
Different guy.
Yeah. And what's interesting is the Japanese dub has a different actor for that part too. So it really does feel like a different character even in the Japanese dub.
I didn't know that. That's a weird one.
Yeah. They also, I think, got a different guy for Bucky, it sounds like, too. I just watched episode 1.
I love Bucky's voice actor in Japanese so much.
Yeah.
I know!
Kuwabara.
It's Shigeru Chiba, also the voice of Raditz as well, and I could post
King Pilaf.
Yes,
I'm gonna post that clip of him freaking out in a Urusei Yatsura movie again on Twitter.
Well, okay, we'll watch that after we're done talking. Remind us, Ed. Kirsten, anything else you want to say?
The score also got on my nerves a little bit. That's like another thing for me. Thank you.
So we talked about that a little.
It's just not the same.
No. I mean, it's Kohei Tanaka is, especially in the early, like East Blue, so good. I agree with you, Kirsten, for the first 3 episodes, the first section. I think it was overbearing is probably the word I'd use. I think they got during Kuro because they had to, because it was horror movie-ish. And toward the Nami stuff, I think it got a lot better. But I mean, it's not going to be Kohei Tanaka. I did like at least that they did nods to a lot of the themes and so on and so forth. But we'll get more into that. Anything else besides
my other, you've heard 2 of my major qualms. My other qualm, the third qualm, well, shoot, not everyone's at the same place.
Well, we're okay. We should say we're okay giving spoilers, right? Stephen and Dave have submitted to being fine, have it being spoiled.
Yeah. Okay.
You're in it now.
So that's the warning to the listeners.
That's the warning to the listeners as well.
The way that they changed, and I think there's a couple changes in this genre, but this was the biggest deal to me. The way that they changed the Cocoa Village storyline so that Nojiko and the villagers didn't bother to consider whether Nami might have had good reasons to join Arlong's crew and just instead hated her is a very cynical change to me to make, and it made me kind of sad.
I didn't even think of that. What was it in the original? So you probably seen Arlong way more recently than I've read it or seen it. I'm trying to remember how they reacted because it wasn't good.
It wasn't good. I went back and read the manga after I saw it the first time, and it's that Arlong takes Nami, and then Nami comes back into the village with the tattoo, and everyone gets upset at each other, but that night, Nami's at Belmare's grave, and Nojiko comes and is like, yo, something's up, right?
I think with Nojiko, it did bother me. The rest of the town, I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
Mostly, maybe not Genzo. Genzo, secretly knowing. I think that's what it was, right? He didn't say
in
it
the
out
manga.
loud.
In the manga, they all know, but they don't. They don't want to let it on. So they just kind of let her do her thing.
My recollection of that was that Nami goes back to the village and is like, I'm an Arlong pirate now, and they all shun her, but I always took it as this is an act of love from the village so that she could be the only free one. It's we're going to pretend, we're not going to give you any reasons to get attached to the village. If you hate us, that's great because you can go out and live the life that you want to. So it was really a pointed sacrifice on the village's part. And it sounds like that was overlooked in the series, which is also saddening to hear because that was the real core of the heart of that
there was
that arc.
100%.
One more thing about the Cocoa Village aspect was that Luffy listening attentively to Nojiko's story.
Yeah, that bothered me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I get it.
That's a different. It's a different character. That's not how he's not how he's characterized in this series.
But he also, but then when he does the hat on the head thing, he does say that she's like, you don't know what, he says something like, yeah, I don't know why, but you do. You listened to Nojiko 5 minutes ago. That aside. Yeah, no, I agree with those. But, I'll let you all talk more. Kirsten, anything else?
Those were my big three. There's a lot they got right too. And because no one's ever gotten this nearly as right before when it comes to a live action Hollywood anime adaptation, it's like, it's good. I have my nitpicks, but largely it's positive.
I think fitting 100 chapters in 8 episodes is a difficult task that I don't really know why they set that specific task out for themselves, but
it's probably like
not 100,
Netflix.
I guess. Yeah.
Netflix has this weird 8 episode order thing recently.
I hate it.
I mean, that's like a writer's strike thing too. It's like the shortened seasons and stuff like that.
Well, this was all before that. But
or like
That's
the
one of the items that they're.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, no, that's it. I don't like it either. I'll say, as a fan of Frog and Toad, the Apple TV series, for my son, it's 8 episodes, and I have to watch the same ones over and over again. It's good, but I don't know if it's 50 times good.
yeah.
Who else? So Ed, I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, as I was saying, there were definitely things that sort of changed the characterization of characters. It's a lot more violent, I think, than it feels more violent than the manga feels, but it's actually about the same.
Except for the Mr. Seven fight.
Mr. Seven getting chopped in half.
I gasped.
Yeah.
When that happened.
There's a lot of fisherman pirates who die, presumably.
There's a lot more death, but I get why they did that, because that was the one criticism of Oda. It's you don't kill anyone, and then let's kill everyone.
I like the setting of having the entire Usopp or Syrup Village arc pretty much take place in the house. Although I think Captain Kuro looks like Robbie Rotten from Lazy Town, and it bugs me.
I haven't seen that, so...
It's a kid show. It was a meme 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's accurate.
That's
though.
not helping me, but I believe you there.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the buggy aspect. I know you didn't. You were not enjoying Makenyu when we were watching on Thursday.
Yeah, I'll talk about that.
Yeah, it's Thursday or Friday. And I don't know. He feels like, again, these all feel like different characters. I think the one that feels like the most similar are Usopp and Nami. Luffy and Zoro and Sanji feel more like different. They're not the same as they are in the manga. In particular, I didn't feel emotionally sort of a connection to Sanji's exit from the Baratier. I don't know. I wasn't feeling.
Quick.
Yeah,
it was very.
I wasn't
quick.
feeling that emotionally. It was kind of abrupt, and I think
I agree.
the actor for young Zoro goes a long way in establishing Zoro's flashbacks. I actually got that was probably the most emotional I got watching the series was Queena's funeral. That was that and probably the Arlong stuff. But
she dies.
Spoiler. We
They
warned
don't
you.
say it was stairs this time. I'll say that. They don't
that's
mention
true.
the
There was
stairs.
just an accident. That's an improvement.
So what? Chair, escalator,
Something like that.
Elevator.
She was changing a light bulb. And,
It's so vague that I almost wonder if it will confuse new watchers.
They didn't kind of hit home the idea that life is so sudden and
Fragile,
and fragile and unceremoniously you could just die like that. I thought was a really good thing to put into Zoro's backstory in the manga. I don't even know if the anime does that much. I can't remember. It's been a long time, but I'm upset that wasn't in. But they did a good job with that backstory. I think overall, you're right. The Sanji leaving the Baratier was a fumble. So sorry, I didn't mean to go back and forth there. Go ahead, Ed. Anything? Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the first 2 episodes in particular. I think they go, I think Axe Hand Morgan is properly sort of, depicted as this sort of corrupt, vainglorious Marine, and the Straw Hats, not Straw Hats yet, but they're sort of working together and how they come together to sort of overcome him makes that felt the most. Yeah, that and like Luffy's, Luffy's childhood. Those were pretty.
Yeah.
Almost exactly replicating what was in the manga for the most part. I love the casting of the red hair pirates as well. I thought they were very fun.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And
Not quite as like cool looking.
No, that's good. They shouldn't be. They're a bunch of drunkards. They're pirates. Like they don't shower. That's great. They shouldn't. They shouldn't look.
the banter between Shanks and Mihawk is there to the extent that it is. But
I'll say
that's fun.
everyone in One Piece in the manga is either incredibly hot or grotesque, and like, how does a being like this exist? There's no in between. So it was nice to see that in this, at least.
The Shanks Pirates. Just a bunch of regular guys.
Yeah, just a bunch of regular schmucks.
Yeah.
I got some words on the red hair pirates, but I'll wait for.
Okay.
How did how do we
I'll
all
say
feel
it.
about
I
Buggy?
thought
I feel
Shanks
like Buggy.
was hot.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I thought Shanks was hot.
Yeah.
Everyone
I
seems to
think
think Buggy is
Shanks-
hot, though. Everyone thinks Buggy is hot.
Buggy was
I
great.
think Shanks worked
His nose?
he worked with what he had as well as he could. Like I think Shanks is like a flower in a battlefield. Just
Agreed.
despite how I feel, which I'll get into later, I think Shanks did a great job.
Yeah. The second episode, I'll say, Dave, I think solidified that crew for me.
I was really enjoying Zoro in Japanese because McKenna did a very good job with all his fight choreography, or if he has, I don't know if he has stunt doubles. I
That's
don't
true.
think he does, but I don't know, his fight choreography sticks out as being particularly good. And
Although someone noticed that, I think it's in Shellstown, that his like sword bends because it's a fake sword.
well,
Yeah, that was
In one shot.
Oh, that was you, Joey? Okay.
Yeah, he rolls over at some point and his sword, which is supposed to be sheathed, just like bends in half.
And it's
he gets up
Wado
and it's, like,
Ichimoji,
crooked.
so that's
Yeah.
that's not good.
Yeah.
but
But, whatever. It was an exciting looking scene.
It was.
Regardless.
No,
Overall,
I agree.
just the last thing that I'll mention is the way the most significant way in which it has changed is turning Garp into this massive present figure who is searching all over East Blue for Luffy and having conversations in offices and boardrooms and just taking up a lot of time in these episodes. It's weird to see him like that because we had this feeling up until after Eni's Lobby that he was this sort of, he was seen in cover pages and that stuff wasn't really animated, or I mean part of it was, but yeah, it's a different way of seeing Garp, and I wonder how that'll change if that continues because they've definitely teased Smoker. He's in the first scene, he's in the last scene of the series, so
He's in the
Yeah.
first
hopefully-
scene?
Yeah, he's the
Yeah,
kid with
there's a young
kid with the white hair.
smoker.
Oh, I probably saw that and forgot.
Yeah,
I have to say, because I forget about it constantly, I love the intro of the series with Ian McShane. And
yeah,
the map
yeah.
thing and the I'd be remiss if I do really like the map aesthetic. This is a nerd talking here. Generally in this a map nerd specifically.
oh yeah, I
in the
mean I
series.
mentioned your hobby of collecting old atlases before.
Oh, okay. You can't tell people I'm a nerd on air. No, anyway.
I made sure to watch the ending credits every time just because
They're
they showed
good.
you new parts of the maps. It
Yeah.
was so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want those
And
maps.
teasing me
Give
with
me
the
those
island
maps.
of exotic animals.
Netflix, I know you're listening. Give me those maps. Just going to leave a silence here for them answering. And anything else?
No, that's all for me.
Joey.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was really fun. I think, saying kind of like a mixed positive is a good way to categorize it. I feel like every fan is going to have their own list of stuff that they don't feel like it got quite right, and none of those lists are exactly going to match up with one another. But I feel like the spirit of the show is really there, and it just the fact that it's not an embarrassment is amazing too.
God, I can't believe it.
Yeah, no,
Like,
it's
if
so
you-
good, and people are enjoying it. My
just gonna
favorite
yeah, go
stuff was actually all of the Kobe and Helmeppo and Garp stuff. I really liked this take on Garp a lot, even though he's pretty different. It may be that stuff, since that's all kind of like original, I don't have as much to like compare against and be like, oh, that doesn't feel the same. But I don't know. This is the most I've ever liked Helmeppo in a thing.
Yeah.
He
Low bar,
gets
low
better
bar.
and better as the season goes on too. He's great.
Yeah.
And Kobe, the actor for Kobe, is super great. And the other thing I really thought was really strong was all the flashbacks. I think they nailed all of the flashbacks.
Sanji's in particular was very good.
Sanji's
Yeah,
was
Sanji's
very-
is so good. And I think all the kids that they cast for those were really great. The show does have a little bit of a harder edge, like you were mentioning with the violence, and something I
Zoro
noticed
says
is a lot
fuck.
there's a lot of swearing in it, which like gives me it like raises my scanlation alarms.
Yeah.
When I'm
Yeah.
and it
thinking
feels a little bit like someone's trying a little too hard to prove that this is cool,
Hey,
But
we're 15,
my personal
we're-
theory on that is that there's just a few things in this show that are like necessary, like Nami stabbing her tattoo and stuff like that just pushes it into a whole other rating.
Yeah, that's true.
then,
Section.
like-
And in order to kind of like, and it's either a case of like the writers being like, well, if we're allowed to say shit, let's say shit as much as we want. Or it may even be a case of like, well, we don't want it to like seem too juvenile and then suddenly have these kind of flashes of violence and things like that. So I kind of get it, but it does make me roll my eyes from time to time. But yeah, overall I think it's really fun. I think I'd always recommend the manga above all else, but I think that this is a good like starting point if somebody's not willing to read the manga or watch the anime, but they think that this looks cool. They should go for it. I mean, I think like I was thinking about this earlier today, and I was like, I over the past several years I've just become more and more of a manga purist, and like what that's done is I've gotten to a point where that doesn't mean that I dislike everything that's not the manga. It just means that there's a certain level that I can just brush off my shoulders, It's just kind of like, well, if this isn't exactly the way I like it, that's fine. That's not the thing that's really important to me. And the rest is just like gravy or whatever. So,
But when the
I think
when
as
the
a
manga
sort of-
fucks something up, though.
well, yeah, then I'm tearing
That's-
my hair out. Yeah, no. We all have to have our priorities.
That's true.
But yeah, no, I think it's really good. I think especially as like a sort of like if you think of it as just like a supplemental material, like the anime or video games or something, like it's just its own thing. It's different than the source material, and it's really fun. And like I said, I'm really glad that it's not something that we're all holding our head in our hands about and being like, oh God, let's never speak about this again.
Right.
Again,
Yep.
we announced. Well, I mean, we announced it came out. And we first spoke about this series in 2017 during One Piece Day. So it must have been July 22nd, 2017.
Yeah, that's wild.
And during the middle of Whole Cake Island, it was like when the cake was, or when the Tamate box or something like around
God,
that.
it was before Wano. Jesus.
It was way before Wano. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, Greg.
and-
Greg was saying like his involvement has been for like 6 years or something. Like this, so
I think like since
wild.
around then, like a little after that, which is wild. Yeah. But then I think what we said is if it gets new people into the series, even if it's a piece of crap, even if like people look at it and are like, oh, this is stupid, but maybe the original is okay or something. If you get like 3 people like that, you're good. And so this is much better than that low bar that we set. Steven, I'll go last.
Yeah, so, well, it was kind of interesting. I just had a thought when Joy was talking about kind of the harder violence. And I found it really interesting how often Zoro talks about killing people, which is like, it's sort of anathema to Oda's characterization in terms of, what he is willing to have his heroes say.
Yeah.
And
But it makes sense when you think about it.
yes, it makes perfect sense. It's the sort of thing that like he should be saying, technically speaking. But it is one of those kind of weasel areas for Oda where there's a verb in Japanese which is kiru, which is to cut. I mean, it sounds like kill, but it means to cut, and that is like that's what when you had samurai. Like you attack someone in the street, you slash him in half with your sword or whatever. You would say, "I cut him down," and the implication was that you killed him. But it's not literally saying, it's not dictionary definition like to kill. And because of that, I think Oda can use that as like an escape route where like if Zoro says he cut this guy, then, well, if the guy happens to survive, well, he didn't say he killed him. He just said he cut him. Whereas, it still is supposed to, to hold the implication to the Japanese mind of like, oh, well, he probably killed him because that's what we use that verb to insinuate. And so, yeah, it was very like, oh, wow. So they just kind of jumped right over that, little sort of linguistic hurdle to just have Zoro talk about that stuff. And I'm very curious as to what like Oda thought about that in particular, if he had qualms about that or if he was just like, okay, well, whatever we have to do to sell Zoro's character or what.
I do think that's a kind of an example of like, One Piece isn't the most like Japanese series ever, but like this sort of Japaneseness getting kind of ironed out. I think that's a thing.
Hey, they had onigiri in there, which is better than you could say about 4Kids.
Yeah, I just think that's when we were talking about Sanji's goodbye lacking a little bit. He doesn't get down on his hands and knees, and I feel like it's a possibility that was just seen as a little too foreign or something. But it does like kind of make it not seem as dramatic,
Well, it was on the boat too. Like, well, I have things to say about that specifically. I don't know if I'm going to say that here, but yeah.
Yeah, and I was struck when I first saw like the marine ship with the giant like Kaigun like kanji on the front, and I was like, wow, that's right. They just went for that. They just threw it in there, and I guess they're probably just assuming, well, yeah, maybe the American audience or some of the other audiences that are not as familiar with One Piece as a whole will be thrown off by that. Same thing with the dendamushi, the transponder snails. But
I had this conversation with someone today.
But like for the people who know and otherwise, for a lot of the foreign territories, the international territories, like it probably is a lot easier to sell because they're just more familiar with the
I
series already.
love the transponder snails. I just want to say,
I love them.
Cool.
Especially the one that shows up later. The only thing I was upset getting spoiled about, and I got spoiled about a lot in this series, was the different type of transponder snail that shows up later. That's unique to this series. Yeah, and I love the hell out of that. Stephen, anything else? Go ahead.
And I love that we were talking about this too. Like they didn't do any. They did the stuff talking about like you don't name your special attacks before you do them or whatever. And they did that sort of nod to like, hey, isn't this weird that this is like a live action anime? But they did not even attempt to like rationalize or explain the snails. Like there was just like. You have no idea that this is a pun in Japanese, and like it's this very silly, like almost like Dr. Slump level like wordplay that they're just like, you're just gonna have to roll with it. It's just weird, okay? Like just get used to it.
To be fair, I don't think most readers are going to get that in the manga or the anime or anything else. So yeah.
But it's just so funny to see how that has played out over the years. Like Oda made a joke, many years ago, and now we have creepy, realistic looking giant snails with hair on them and stuff.
It's so good.
It's
Getting
really
fed
good.
lettuce.
Garp feeding
the
that
lettuce.
one lettuce.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That like might be my favorite little moment in the whole series.
I have to say the transponder. I think alone. I might be speaking out of turn here, but I think alone the transponder snails make the series worth watching. This is my priority.
Amen.
Here. Yeah. Right. Like, even if you don't like any of the other stuff. Dave, what did you think? You saw one episode, it was 10 minutes ago, mind you.
Yeah. It was good. Like, I will say that I was going into the series with extreme prejudice. Like, finding out that it was like the Bebop team that, people that were working on Bebop, and like even like watching like the trailers, there are parts of the trailers that like put up a lot of red flags for me. It's like I remember when watching the trailers, I was like, I know that this is just like sort of like trailer house like shit, like trying to make the most accessible kind of trailer for people that have never seen the series. It's like there are moments where like Luffy was like, ever since I was a little boy, I've always wanted to be a pirate. You know, it's like that didn't feel particularly like Luffy to me. And there was like some color grading stuff where I was like, oh, this looks very like. This looks very manufactured from a series that I've taken to feel as like a very like sincere one. But watching the series, like I was very pleasantly surprised at, you know, how well it stuck to One Piece. And, you know, watching it made me realize like, oh, this isn't for me. Like, this is for people that don't know about One Piece. Yeah. And just like Joey was saying, like, I've got my nitpicks and they are just little nitpicks. Like, I completely agree that it captures like the spirit of One Piece. And like, I think for somebody that doesn't know anything about One Piece or is kind of like sort of interested, but they look at the amount of chapters or episodes they have to watch and they're like, no, thank you. And I think this is a good like thing for them to get into. Like, this is a great springboard into a much better experience, which is, in my opinion, like the manga or the anime up to a certain point, you know, like
and then after a certain point.
Yeah, and then after a certain point. But like I think everything that you guys were saying about Garp, I was thinking as well. I was like, man, Garp is not really Garp, and is it his characterization? Is it the Scottish accent? Like, he doesn't feel like
I
the
love that Scottish accent, though.
Well, I mean, I don't dislike it, but it didn't really like read to me as Garp. You know, it's like it didn't read to me as like your grandpa that just like, you know, like buys like, he's like the sort of grandpa that would buy like sweets for like, you know, his grandkids that, you know, his folks told him not to have, like, you know, kind of mischievous, like, you know, rule bending old man. Like, he actually reads more like Sengoku to me than he does Garp. And that, again, like, I'm also like curious as to what's going to happen when Sengoku's like introduced into the series, and how are they going to like?
Maybe he'll be like Garp.
It's gonna
Why
be
are you wearing a
reversal.
giant seagull on your head? You know, to be fair.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's it felt like and speaking in terms of like TV production and like, you know, the tone of it, and like the 8-episode thing is also something I was like, man, they're really speeding through the first episode. And like this whole B plot of Garp, like seating Garp as like this like Sengoku figure, it's like, oh, those turtles, those rascals, you know, like this Shredder Krang like sort of thing. And that feels like a budget thing. And I know that there was no like, you know, sparing of expense in general for the series, but like, it's just in order for them to have a lot of like, in order for them to have like the crazy like fight scenes that was a deliberate decision to lean into for, I don't know, edgy factors or whatever, they had to include like B plots because those are really cheap. It's like, oh, we can use like, you know, similar sets, and we just need to put the characters in there and they can talk about what's happening, and it's like exposition. And it's like, this is a great way to save money, seed like story shit for like another season. And, you know, it's like, it kills like a bunch of birds with one stone. And like, as somebody that works in like, you know, the entertainment industry, like, okay, I get it. Like, as a One Piece fan, like, I wish they stayed truer, but like, it's, again, it goes back to like, you know, this isn't really for me, and I had a good time watching it, so I don't really see like the problem. Like, the one episode that I watched, some things were changed. Like, the big qualm in my thing is like, wow, Axhan Morgan was really a badass in that first episode. I just remembered him getting punched into like, I remember him like blasting off again, you know, like really early on. And, you know, again, I get it. And the only other thing that I really took away from the first episode is how like incredibly like hot Zoro was. You know, he was just like, I'm
not denying that.
Yeah. He was like a fucking snack for 56 minutes, you know, like they did not hold back on that, you know, like he was on.
I'll get to my opinions about Zoro after,
but
not the way he looks.
The Shanks pirates, like the red hair pirates, like I loved all of their performances. I thought their performances were on point, but I have some qualms about the way that they look. Like Ben Beckman in particular, he just looked like he looked like
a slob.
He looked like Paul Blart, like wearing a cape. You know, it was it was Paul Blart Mall first mate. You know, it was like, and Shanks, like they could have made.
I still like that. I get why you're. I mean, they're not. It's not the same exact thing, you know. Like
it's something different, and you know that's like a me problem. Like I think it served the red, like you guys said, like the red-haired pirates. Like they serve the purpose. Like these are a bunch of fun-loving drunkards, people that you wouldn't really expect to be pirates, and I'm guessing are shown to be badasses, you know, in the next episodes. But just like the way it just looked like everybody's dad's cosplaying an AX as the Red Pirates.
Yeah,
you know,
I see that. And there was a lot of that. I feel like in the costume.
And like, you know, like given what they did to Zoro, they could have made Shanks's blouse like a little bit tighter, you know, a little less frumpy, and to no detriment to his like storytelling. But he still made it work. He still made it work, and he still felt like Shanks, which is important. My other column was like young Luffy, like he looked like he was holding in a fart like the whole like episode. He always looked like he was like,
well, now I'm not going to be able to watch that again.
he looked like he was so put upon, and like I know that he was like kind of grumpy in the flashbacks, but I was like, I didn't think he like was this like, I don't know, like acerbic or. But, you know, those are all, like, really small nitpicks. And I would say that, all in all, like, I enjoyed what I saw. And it sucks to hear that there have been some changes to the stories that I personally don't agree with. But I do think that my fears of this being Bebop 2 have been, like, you know, properly, like, allayed and, like, addressed. Like, this would be something that I feel like I could talk to some normies about and be like, have them be like, oh, I'm watching the series and this One Piece thing. And it's like, you know, it's like, oh, this is like kind of like a pirate of Caribbean. And it's a fun thing. And I want to watch it. Like, I can't wait till season 2. Yeah. And if it does that, like you were saying, like, I would say mission accomplished. I think expecting it to break like the anime curse, like the anime live adaptation curse is like, you know, unrealistic, and I don't think it did break a curse, but it wasn't terrible and it was completely watchable. And I think for people that have not been into the series and aren't looking at it with like a magnifying glass are gonna have a good time, and that's all I could have ever asked for.
I'd be remiss to say there are good anime adaptations that are in live action, and just not many, but there are.
Speed Racer.
Speed Racer. Alita, I've heard good things about. I haven't seen.
I watched Alita.
I'd be curious to hear, after you see some more episodes, what you think about the Garp and Marine storylines, because I don't disagree that might have been a budgetary like decision, but
or just a practical.
I think it also works very thematically because we're following the two kind of basic forces that we're presented with in the world. Like there's pirates and there's Marines. And now we get kind of a runner through the whole season of both a pirate set of characters and a Marine set of characters. Yeah.
And Kobe's also so fundamental at the beginning. Sorry, Kirsten.
Yeah. I think they needed a character to be the face of the Marines.
I also have a theory that, like, they were worried that if we just followed the Straw Hats, it would be more kind of a Monster of the Week type thing. And they were worried about
that's a good point.
Not having it be linear enough, which I don't agree with, but I feel like people at Netflix probably think like that.
I will say, I thought Netflix, or I think the series, did a good job at making you kind of think it's a Monster of the Week, and then the character, and then in One Piece, true One Piece style, the villains do come back one by one later on, which is, I think, one of the most, I don't know if endearing is the right word, but it's one of the cool parts about One Piece is that the villains, while defeated, are still kind of always there in the background, except for Kuro, who doesn't.
Who gets away, but doesn't come back.
I'll try and say my few thoughts quick. I have many thoughts, actually, but I'll try and keep it succinct. I think the series highs, personally, for me, were at the beginning and at the end. And I think that whether or not that was on purpose. It leaves you with the feeling that the series, I loved the hell out of it, but I think it like leaves you like it's like a compliment sandwich that even if there's something in the middle you didn't like, you don't really think about it because you've just left something really awesome at the end. And at the beginning you were introduced to something really awesome. I was blown away by how much I like this and how much it, despite some of it feeling cosplay-ish in the costume design, and I am no costume design expert by any stretch of the imagination, don't get me wrong, but maybe it's also just because I'm so familiar with the manga and anime, I'm like, wow, they even included the poop on Kuro's suit. So that's great. But like, I'm trying to think in the point of view of someone watching for the first time, does this look a little ridiculous to you? But I mean, at the same time, it's supposed to be campy, which is great that they lean into that, and when they lean into that. It's supposed to be the combination of comic and adventure, and I like the one good thing about that New York Times article is that demeans all people over the age of 30, sorry. They love people under the age of 30. Sorry, they said fine things in it. And but what the hell was I going to say? Oh, there's a comedy adventure.
Pull yourself together, Zach.
No, I could do it. Sorry, I'm just the ageism. It has to start at like 50. The one thing I do want to say is I was struck by how much they leaned into horror motifs, and I really like. So if you're listening to our podcast for the first time with no familiarity with the manga or anime. There is one arc with a horror motif, and that arc's ridiculous. Comedically, it leans into the comedic side of the horror motif. So to see it done, I am not a big horror person, but I think somewhat effectively. I'm not the right person to judge that. Was shocking. The gore we mentioned is shocking. My hot take, and it's a good hot take. And by good, I mean it's a positive thing that I have to say, is I thought the Syrup Village stuff was greatly improved. Like, I enjoyed it. And I'm sure I'll get flack for it, but like the original, I've never been a huge fan of it. I'm a fan of Kuro. I think the concept is good. I love, as we have on the podcast have dubbed the 401k villain, where he's just trying to get his pension and retirement account together. Maybe not in the best way, but you know, he's doing his best. I think the fight between Zoro and the two whatevers, the cats, the house cats,
the Meow Band,
the two Meow Band,
Sham and Butchie, I thought was excellent. I thought that was like the first time I'm like, whoa, Zoro's cool again. When I was speaking with Ed, I have qualms about McKenyu's acting. I think I'm just going to say it right now. I think it's shit for the most part. In my opinion, he took me out of the series the most. I think the thing that Steven talked about is one of it. I think having your main, like a supposedly sympathetic guy talking about how many people he murders and bringing in a guy in a bag, with his head severed or whatever the hell happened, or his body was severed. That's just not very endearing. I mean, like if you're in a Quentin Tarantino movie, maybe, but like not here, not in One Piece. That feels very, not just like out of the spirit of One Piece. That feels like an antithesis of this, as Steven said. The stuff with Zoro generally is what bothered me the most in this series. Other than that, and Helmeppo, freaking MVP, agreed. His butt and the rest of him. No, the teddy bear. The whole thing. He is such a prick, and it's amazing. He's so good at it, that actor.
The first time that I saw him like open his mouth as wide as it could go, I was like, "Oh my god, This is such good casting!" Like he looks just like the character.
Yeah,
I'll say the casting.
Amazing.
It is, and the casting in general, I think, is pretty solid, just about all around. McKenna, but just about all around. And like he looks like Zoro, sure. The thing is, when I see his behind the scenes things, I'm like, why didn't you do this? Why don't you act like yourself? You're more like Zoro just being you than you are as the brooding edgelord guy who kills people and doesn't really enjoy anything. Like, that's not Zoro has fun. Zoro is a jovial guy, even if he doesn't always show it.
I don't know about that.
Jovial might be the wrong word, but he smiles sometimes.
No.
And he's interesting. He's like an interesting character with layers.
Yeah.
This is a Zoro who's actually haunted by his past.
Yeah, I like Makenyu, his performance in this, but it is a sort of like more stoic version, more kind of irritable, stoic, darker version of Zoro.
They play up the connection between Zoro and Nami. They have conversations.
I think the three of them.
That's the three of them. Yeah.
I think Luffy, Nami, and Zoro have the best like chemistry and really pop the most out of the cast. Usopp and Sanji was good. I really hate to say it, but I feel like Usopp was kind of the one that didn't shine enough for me. And I think that's on the show's feet rather than the actor. I think the show doesn't quite know what to do with him. And that's my biggest problem with Syrup Village is that Usopp doesn't really have an active role in the resolution of it and doesn't really like do much.
I think it's to show. I think he shines in like his heart, which is what's supposed to, I think his flashback is the only kind of botched one. I wasn't. Not that his flashback in the manga is anything amazing.
Like that guy walks out the door and his mom dies like a minute later.
Yeah, like make it a little more like even at the end when they're going through all the flashbacks again. Like I'm like, oh, you had nothing to choose from for Usopp. I disagree. I've said my thoughts on Makenyu, but I think Taz Skylar was phenomenal, particularly in his fighting. I thought as a Taekwondo person, I thought that was badass. That's one of the reasons Sanji used to be my number one, back before things, back before, the times. And this reminded me why I loved him. He was really, really good, I thought. The problem is he's in like 2 episodes and it doesn't feel earned that he joins the crew, I feel like. Yeah. Which you could say for a lot of them. It's 8 episodes long, so you feel like, how are these people friends already? It's been like 20 minutes. Yeah, but that's the thing I wanted to say. Yeah, go ahead, Kirsten.
Oh,
go
no,
ahead.
go. No, go.
I've been talking a lot.
When I got the chance, I went to probably the only press event they'll end up having for the show because of the strike. But I got to hear Taz talk a little bit about his training for Sanji, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
And sounded like 4 to 8 hours a day. Like whenever he wasn't filming or learning how to cook, he was training. Yeah, and I couldn't help but think about that when I was watching the show and be like, damn, they all worked so hard. And it looks very good in that regard. I also want to stand up for Makenyu.
Sorry.
I actually really like his Zoro. I think he's really funny.
This is just a me thing. I think everyone else has disagreed with me. That is literally yeah, I don't know. That's a personal opinion, obviously.
It may be a kind of thing
nothing on
where
Makenyu
you
specifically, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. No. Of course.
Yes. That's Joey. What were you going to say? Oh, Dave.
It may be just a kind of thing of he's playing kind of a jerk, and so you're just rubbing up against that. Like,
yeah.
I saw the Ninja Turtles movie with a few friends, and one of my friends like really hated it. And I thought it was really fun. And when we kind of boiled it down to it, I think it's just that he's annoyed by teenagers. and they're the most like teenagers that any Ninja Turtles have ever been before.
Yeah.
And so it's possible that you're just really butting up against that type of personality.
It's in the title, to be fair, like that, yeah. I think it was the writing more with Zoro that bothered me. I'm sure that's what Makenyu had to work with. Like, I'm not gonna blame. it's hard to blame anyone specifically when you're like watching so many of the behind the scenes process and you see how much work goes into every little thing. So I don't want to get into it, but I think I don't love the dark kind of. I don't even dark isn't even the right word. Just like nonchalant
like
murder.
Yeah.
There's people that's fine with, not Zoro personally. But yeah, go ahead.
It felt like there's like a bit of an uncanny like valley situation with Zoro where I see what you're saying, because like to me it feels like Zoro is always registered more as like Tsukomi, like a straight man to Luffy, and I feel like he's leading more into like lone wolf, which I think is causing that divide for me. And it's like it was a deliberate choice, and it's something that I noticed, but I feel like not everybody is going to have enough of that sort of like background in like, you know, straight man clown sort of like, you know, relationship to like really like, you know, clock it. So this sort of goes back to what I was saying before, where it's like, oh, I noticed this, but most people probably aren't going to notice this, and I'm just going to chalk it up as something that's not really for me. And you know, I'll roll with it just because he's just too much of a snack for me to like. I mean,
you can't let people's good looks, you know, affect you that much.
Yeah.
That's how you get ensnared. It's the siren song.
But I guess time will tell too. Like if they continue to lean into that, and have that be like Zoro's shtick, is that he's always like the bloodthirsty one, or if they pull it back from there, because you can start there and then you get him. He becomes more and more lovable as time goes on. So that kind of does happen with the Straw Hats. Yeah,
I will say, Steven, that did happen. I think in this series, I think by the end, he's like, okay, I kind of see Zoro here a little bit. Like I think I said that when I started talking about McKenna an hour ago, is that he definitely, I was liking him more. And so I'll end saying that the thing that really hooked me, like where I'm like, oh shit, they did it, was that whole second half of the last episode particularly, I thought was really phenomenal, and it felt like One Piece in a way that, yeah, you got it, I think, a bunch of times in the series, but not always. But like, I'm like, oh, the crew's here. Now we could get started. After the writer's strike and the Screen Guild strike and however long it takes Netflix to film this thing, and if it gets renewed. But like, that's when I felt it. And I also want to say, seeing the reactions from people who have never watched One Piece or showing their grandparents it, I recommended it to my sister. Like people who are completely uninitiated into this world, I could give this to them and feel good about it. Feel like this is a good initiation. If you like it and want to read more, it's there. There's 1,091 chapters as of this recording. There's 1,074 episodes, but there's 8 episodes on Netflix, and you could get through that. Yeah. I don't want any of your shitty excuses, as they would say in the One Piece Netflix version.
I was gonna say, should we talk a little bit about like the news or the general reaction to the series?
Yeah, I'd love to. I don't know if Steve is here with us at recording, but I think he's in the background. But I did want to talk about that. First off, the most important thing, it's One Piece is in Fortnite, guys.
From what I could tell, this isn't even like, it's not even really like official Fortnite. So because Naruto and Dragon Ball and who else? I think maybe One Punch Man.
Attack on Titan.
Yeah, they had like true crossovers where they were characters in the game that you could play. But they, from what I understand, I don't play Fortnite, but from what I understand, they unveiled this sort of like mode creation program where you can set up your own maps and your own games that people then access. And so I think what happened is Netflix just made their own like One Piece, like a Baratier set with the Marion stuff, and so there's like this little interactive activity that you can do in Fortnite, and that's why their ads have like a number code on them, because you put the number code in. So it's not quite like hitting the prime time with Fortnite, but maybe after the the reaction they've just had, maybe that will happen.
I think it may. So it has in actual news. It has. sorry. Again, I'm 36 years old. It got an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think Cowboy Bebop got. You know what? Let me find out. Because I feel like that's important.
I'll just say about the Fortnite thing that recalls, like, we haven't mentioned, but the sets in this show are really amazing. Like
46.
The world that they've constructed is really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. We could talk about all of the intricacies, I feel like, for a very long time. The Baratier, I understand why they set so much of the series there, because from what I've seen and even what we've seen in the show, it was all real and there and on the ocean off of South Africa, off of Cape Town, I think, and just gorgeous and amazing. I loved all of it. So good on them for having Arlong there and all this other crazy stuff that happens there specifically. Like, that set needs to be used. The Mary look great. I think that's the first time they play We Are, like an instrumental.
Yeah.
It's the Mary
time while you looked up that tomato score.
The Cowboy Bebop is 46, which seems high. I haven't seen Cowboy Bebop. I've seen the anime. Very good. So yeah, no, I think the sets were great. I think the reception it's gotten has surprised me even.
I think it surprised them too, probably.
I think so too.
There was a thing. I mean, Netflix doesn't like reveal. They have their own weird metrics that they use, and so it's really hard to gauge. But they did say that it was number one in 84 different countries simultaneously, which is apparently a new record.
It is not a new record. Squid Game had 94. I think someone misreported.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
But it did beat Stranger Things. Yeah,
and Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah. Which are, I mean, if you're in that conversation, that's very, very good. As far as streaming goes.
Although I hear Wednesday is terrible, but again, I haven't seen that, so I can't actually say.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about this in terms of, okay, what is likely to get it continued it's be considered a success on Netflix's part.
It's number one right now as we're recording, and it's been several days, 4 days or something. And that's a really incredible statistic that it beats. Wildest Dreams, like they were saying.
Yeah.
Oh, this is like, there are people I think out there, they're going to do Game of Thrones level stuff. They put so much money into it.
Right.
Like, I'm like, okay, we're all One Piece fans here. We all hope that's, that it's going to be, but there's no way. I'm not saying it has hit Game of Thrones. I don't think TV will be able to hit that again now that everything's moving to streaming. There's just, no one is watching everything now. No, I'm sorry. Not everyone is watching one thing now, is what I meant to say. But
I think that Netflix did a really fantastic job, or just the production in general. And I don't normally talk about this sort of stuff because I think it's kind of dirty. But like, I think their promotional campaign has been spot on. Like, for example,
except on the East Coast. Except on the East Coast.
We didn't even talk about this, but I think it was the day after our last podcast episode was when we saw it was revealed via an interview with the New York Times that Oda was at the Santa Monica event. Yeah. And they had pictures of, what purported to be him. And that was
I'm going to trust the New York Times here.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't even there, but I got goosebumps thinking about that of oh my God, he was there. I think it was, they also revealed in a day or two after that on Instagram and stuff, they had a video that was, it said Oda's POV. I don't know if that means he took the video or if that was someone in his entourage. But he was just walking around through the crowds, and there was a point where he comes across a group cosplay picture of the Straw Hats on the little Mary masthead thing, and the Usopp in that was Dennis Ichnob from our podcast, and everybody was like, "Hey, Oda saw you, Dennis." He's like, "What?" So I mean, just thinking about that is that's amazing, for especially for people who have been into this series for so long to
and
learn that he was there.
Yeah, and Oda is a particular. He's been a little too deified, I'm gonna say, but generally is someone who is very like people. He's very guarded. He is reclusive, I guess is the word. And I think we talked about his interview with Iñaki was touching and phenomenal. If you haven't checked that out, please do. You see more of his office than you ever had. I have like around 80 screen caps of every little thing that I was trying to go through. That one day I'll just post somewhere. Worth doing. Was there anything else about the live action that you all wanted to touch on? I feel like we were maybe too thorough.
They done Mary bad. In that.
Oh, they did. Especially since he apparently looked exactly like Greg.
Yeah. Actually, yeah.
They murdered Greg.
Just real quick, because I won't have any other real outlet to
me neither.
voice
That's
this
why
opinion.
I'm doing.
But is that and this is where we're getting to spoilers. Not only does Mary die, but he isn't the one who designs the ship, and since he's dead for real,
no, he's a lawyer.
That means Kaya.
He's just a lawyer.
He's a lawyer.
I know, but
as a lawyer,
it means that Kaya's all alone
don't
for
make
the rest of the
people
series.
lawyers.
The thing about Kaya being totally alone at the end drove me nuts.
Yeah,
I know. So
also
I feel like
the
that's
Usopp's
a good
pirates aren't
example
there
of
either.
something that feels like
the Usopp
kind of a
pirates.
taste
I'm upset.
issue.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. That made me really sad.
It feels very
like-
short-sighted.
Yeah, it's short-sighted
Yeah.
and it's just different. And if you go into, especially I'll say right now to Dave and Stephen particularly, if you go into the Kuro stuff thinking it's going to be similar, it's not. The takeaways and the feeling, and it's a completely different thing. The thing is, I didn't really like the original thing. That's why I like this one a little more. But yeah.
Anyway, we should probably talk about this manga.
I was going to say that was a good last thing to end on when you mentioned Greg, because he did reveal on his Twitter account that yes, he's been very heavily hinting at this sort of thing over the years that the series has been in production, but he did reveal that he was an advisor on the series, and I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming he and I will at the very least have an SGS segment coming up soon, and I don't know how at liberty he is to talk about stuff, but I would love to ask him exactly what his job pertained to.
I'll say Shueisha, not known for being liberal with information, so
I don't know. Again, he would have to tell me like who is putting the pressure on him. But he was able to say publicly that he had a role in the series, so.
And he's in the credits. Yeah.
And he's in the credits. He's the second to last one. He's like the second to last card. Anyway, thank you, Greg. Thank you, all of you, for talking about this. We should talk about the latest manga chapter. Spoilers for those who have only watched 8 episodes of the Netflix series. This happens. This will happen in season 33 when that absolutely happens, because Netflix is known for their longevity of series. Yeah. So why don't we get into that?
Let's do it.
This is the manga recap for chapter 1091, Sentomaru. So that's Kizaru last time, Sentomaru this time. You can read this chapter and all chapters as soon as they come out at shonenjump.viz.com, mangaplus.shueisha.co.jp. If you're new to this, it's free, legal, and available around the world. Ed, what's going on the cover of Shonen Jump this week?
The cover of Shonen Jump features our classic post-time skip Luffy with being chased by a jaguar and being followed up by Usopp and Chopper. Usopp riding Chopper, actually.
Was there a reason for this? It's just jaguar.
Defaults to Luffy on the cover, I assume. So, whenever they don't have anything else
Lucci
planned.
vibes.
No,
somebody
I meant
on Twitter, I don't know if it was Kamiki-kun or one of the One Piece mania in Japan had pointed out that this is there was a cover page for chapter 11, I think it was, is like Luffy about to do a race with a jaguar or a leopard, and he was like, okay, it's only been 1,080 chapters since we saw this.
By the way, about jaguars and leopards, I need to add since I am rereading Whole Cake Island, everyone mistakes Pedro for a leopard when he's a jaguar.
That's right. That was
So
that was.
I forgot that was a bit. I love Pedro. Rest in peace. He's a fictional character.
Rest in pieces.
Will it be?
Yeah, Will it be? What's I really don't think he's coming back. Ed, what about the color spread?
Sure.
Sorry, Joey.
This is another one from the classic category of Japanese people don't know what pizza is. They don't understand pizza at all.
The physics of pizza.
Yeah,
They think
it's
just
so
a bunch of
it's so
cheese.
gloopy. It's so
Yeah,
and there's
that's
cheese.
gloopy.
There's also cheese all over their clothes because Jinbei
I
says
don't think there's
formaggio
crust.
and
Wait, wait, wait.
gorgonzola.
Is,
I think this,
Luffy
I,
doing
I
that
think
like
this pizza.
Go ahead, sir.
This pizza is made entirely of cheese.
His pizza
Is-
is on top of Luffy. It's
I
like
was
he has
gonna
a
say,
human
is-
plate.
That's what I was gonna say. Is he that human sashimi thing from 30 Rock or whatever that was from, but with pizza?
Nami is eating it like pasta.
This reminds me of a Goofy movie. There is a scene where they eat pizza and the cheese is just like dripping and it's
Yeah.
super gooey. And this pizza reminds me of that pizza.
But all the Straw Hats have like cheese on their clothes or
I love
names of
that.
cheeses,
Well,
except for
they
Brooks,
both-
who says chili jalapeno.
Well, he likes it spicy.
I'll give Oda this. I think the toppings look better than any pizza toppings he's drawn
That's
so far.
basil
Like they don't
and
have like
pepperoni.
mussels on them. And, yeah.
Corn, probably.
Oh, I didn't even see the basil. This is my color blindness, though.
Yeah.
This must be Jinbei's influence. Papa
Yeah,
Jinbei,
yeah.
his pizzeria.
He's got a shirt that says Pizza Gorgonzola. I don't see any Gorgonzola on here.
Formaggio on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for my I'm hungry.
Sanji's got look at Sanji's face.
But you know the pizza they're putting in the oven, that looks okay. I don't know what the hell
Yeah.
Luffy is eating. Don't want to know. It's gross.
That cheese must expand once it gets heated.
Where are Luffy's legs?
You know, that's Zoro's eating them
I think in
Zoro's
Zoro's
much more.
mouth, yeah.
Yeah, Zoro's much more vicious. He loves killing and eating people's legs, which is
Where
really
does Luffy
Zeph's.
end and
Severing
pizza
people
begin?
limb from limb.
Yeah, he loves it.
I
Nami.
think Robin
God, the
must
whole
have seen this coming and just noped out before.
Is she the only one
be
missing?
present?
Frankie.
Frankie.
Frankie and Robin are having
Oh.
date night.
Oh, they're on
Yeah,
a
they're
date.
having it-
Okay.
Yeah.
They're having real pizza.
I do like how Chopper in the corner just has a little personal pizza.
Brooke isn't
Perfect.
eating
Yeah.
pizza. He's too old.
He wants chili jalapenos.
It goes right. It would go right to his stomach if he had one. There it is. Boom.
Ew.
Any other comments on the pizza?
There's flamingos with like top hats and monocles
That I like.
or spectacles. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Shades, yeah.
And top hats. As
Yeah,
you said.
I think this is incredibly fun, even though the way Oda draws pizza is incredibly gross.
Yeah.
Like,
As a New
it
Yorker,
is so gross, but it is a very fun. Like the energy in the spread is very fun.
Oh,
I love
yeah.
the mouse with the pizza cutter
Yeah.
on top of the pizza.
That's great.
It's so cute. And
But as
there's
a-
another mouse on top of Jinbei.
Oh, that's the
Very
Ratatouille
cute.
one that controls
Yeah.
Jinbei. Yeah, as a New Yorker, I have to hate this color spread, but it's cute. Ed,
But the mouse
Oh.
running on the pizza, that is definitely a New York specialty.
to be fair, that is
pizza
correct.
rat.
Yeah, pizza rat. There he is.
It's Chuji Entertainment
Rat got a
cheese.
job.
There's a lot of
No,
Chuchi in
no,
this
Ed,
chapter.
we've done that one already.
I know.
That one. Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
Could always reuse an old one. What's going on the first page?
Sure. We're hearing over the so back at the front of Egghead with the Marines. We hear Admiral Kizaru is in the field. Get ready for enemy reaction. And we see the pacifistas they're charging up their lasers. Pew 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 pew. And the guy's like, "Don't let them shoot those lasers! Fire the cannons!"
I should make you do only sound effect pages from now on. Sound like a kid playing with toys. Yeah. Joey.
Yeah, and then we turn the page to see that the sea beast weapons are attacking, and there they are. The chumps are chumping down,
That is a chump.
and we have like a sort of bull one putting its horns in a ship, and this lion creature chumping down, and then this totally incredible. Speaking of mice, this wonderful mouse with a drill nose.
And a rotary phone ears? Are those what that, is that what that is?
He's ready to pierce the heavens with his drill. And I believe it still says chump on his cheek as well. So I like this.
I thought it was Chuji for a second.
Yeah, I thought it was Chew. I feel like the lion one, he was meaning to write chomp.
Yeah. Or maybe the visor cuts off the top of the O.
Right.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
There's some sort of lettering after the chew on the mouse, though. It looks like an M to me, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Chump.
It's a number or something.
It says chump.
I got to look this up.
Such a chump.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I love this spread. It's so cool, and I love the creatures and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we see this weird wormy marine guy. Saying steam knuckle and punching out a hippo creature.
We have to get a name for this guy now. He's doing things.
I love this design. This thumb of a man.
He's literally a thumb.
What did I
I'm
call
looking
him?
at it, and it's true.
Vice Admiral Patty Melt or something like that.
It's RB Patty Melt.
He's ribbed for somebody's pleasure.
Okay. Steve is here, by the way.
Hi, Steve.
Hey.
And so a figure is approaching the pacifistas and saying, "Not the ships." And here we see it's Vice Admiral Badass Doll, or is she a Vice Admiral?
Yes.
Yes.
Doll kicking the pacifista in the cheek, saying, "You're dealing with us," in a very cool panel. As she kind of continues to fly up, and they're charging their laser. Someone over a intercom says, "The Vice Admirals have made landfall."
Oh, it's me. We head to the lava phase, where where someone is noted. I guess Usopp is saying they're fighting at the coast. That the classic battle of Navy versus Robo Sea Beasts commences. Usopp with glasses, excellent touch. The transponder snail on top of the futuristic computer screen, fantastic touch. Everything here is great. Vegapunk discusses. Sorry, Kirsten.
I was just gonna say that snail looks like so grumpy and sleepy, and I love him.
I've been up all night broadcasting this shit. Can I go to sleep?
Usopp needs
and it looks like the TV is a snail too. I mean, no, it's not, but it has a snail-like shape, so it's like a snail on top of a snail.
Maybe it's a giant snail.
Usopp needs the glasses to see the little CRT that he's got there. Just a little box.
Yeah. Vegapunk hasn't figured out flat screen televisions, HD.
What a chump.
Yeah, what a chump.
He's a chump. He's a retro gamer.
Oh, he's playing Smash on it, yeah.
That's the true experience.
Okay, Vegapunk, the Stella, the main one, the one with an apple for her head, for those who don't remember, says, right now, with Sentomaru leading the pacifistas, the island's defenses are utterly impenetrable. I'm sure nothing will go wrong. Nothing. And we see the hierarchy again, authority chip at the bottom, Sentomaru. Above that, Vegapunk with the satellites. I guess they can't override that. I guess the pacifista hierarchy is just the same as the, what do you call it? The Seraphim hierarchy, which I forgot. Mm. That's what we saw.
Yes, they are.
They're just showing it's the same exact hierarchy, and so I got confused and conflated them. Sorry about that. And the 5 elders, which luckily none of those guys around. And the cute little images of Sentomaru and the pacifistas and the authority chip. And Usopp, shaking his CRT TV, says, trying to bang it to get it to work correctly, says, isn't that why he showed up to take out Sentomaru? And Nami responds, Kizaru, Stussy was right. They did send an admiral here. Brooke in his full astronaut gear says that this brings back some very unpleasant memories back from Shabari. I'm glad they addressed it. I thought that might just not get addressed for some reason. Realizing they're fighting right below them, Vegapunk does a good face palm here, saying, I am sorry, Sentomaru. The fight is too cruel to ask of you. I won't blame you for running away. Meanwhile, the fight is way too cruel for Sentomaru as Kizaru kicks him. I was trying to kick him in the head, but Sentomaru does get a block in. as Kizaru fires the only thing he does, the Yasakani Sacred Jewel. Has he named any of his other attacks? I can't even remember.
The Mirror of Yata
Oh, that's it.
was the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, but those are the two. Kizaru,
Pretty much.
not a lot of range. He fires that, telling Sentomaru to hurry up and surrender. You know you want to, Sentomaru. Dave.
Are those both like famous historical like baubles or something?
They are. I believe those are both considered to be two of like the three treasures of Japan.
Okay.
I forget what the third one is, but yes, they are. They're real things that he is referring to.
Can't wait for the third one to be his final attack or whatever.
Yeah,
Gee,
maybe
I
so.
wonder.
Yeah. So we turn the page, and Sentomaru, reacting to the Yasakani Sacred Jewel, is running away from the onslaught. And while he's running from this rain of energy beams, he's saying, "Sorry, old man, but I made a promise with Straw Hat Luffy." And in the next panel, we see a cut-in of his battle axe, his famous battle axe, which he then grabs. And Kizaru responds with, "Since when did you side with pirates?" And Sentomaru huffs a little bit as he readies himself, and in the next page jumps towards him and saying, "I'll take the side of anybody, Huff, who creates an escape route for the man who saved my life." And he takes a mighty swing and does a mighty miss because Kizaru does a mighty dodge with his mighty Logia power.
I don't even think he dodged. He just let it happen.
He
and-
split it himself in two.
Yeah.
This is the recreation of the Mr. 7 fight from the live action series.
Yeah, nice little nod to the One Piece live action. Yeah, I mean, when I first read this chapter, I sort of like took it as like, oh wow, he's actually dodging like an attack for the first time. It feels like it felt. I mean, I guess it's up for interpretation, but he's either slicing through him or he's disembodying himself to avoid Sentomaru's attack. And Sentomaru says, "Oria!" And as he says it, Kizaru has a memory of a tiny Sentomaru saying, "Oria!" And they're saying, "Hey, they asked us to hunt these bears. Who the freak is that? A child?" And you see a tiny, very, very cute little dumpling of a Sentomaru standing on what are probably the corpses of three very tough-looking bears.
They're dead.
Yeah, they're dead. Like we Zoro cuts people in half, so these bears are definitely dead. Although there are some that are alive in the back, and I don't know.
They won't be
it
for
looks like-
long.
yeah.
He
Once
bonked him to death.
They're getting the message. They're very worried looking.
There are two survivors in the back, but not for long apparently, because people in One Piece die now.
Yeah, one of them's got a bump on his head.
Yeah.
Tender
One of them just has emotional
that's
scarring.
instant death. Yeah, that's instant
left
death.
him
Bump on
with
that.
1 HP.
Brutal. Just
He's so cute.
He's Kentaro. He's just Kentaro.
Yeah.
Kirsten.
I love how the child Sentomaru is more or less just the same as adult Sentomaru, but just real tiny.
Yeah.
Great. No notes.
No.
Anyway, goes on with little tiny child Sentomaru saying, "I hate the villagers. They're so weak. I ain't going back there." And then Bolsonaro, who's there with a young Vegapunk, giant head and all, saying, "You got kicked out, huh?" Sentomaru saying, "I'm so tough, I don't even get hungry, but I still want a job. I want money." And Vegapunk asks, "Oh, is there something you want to buy with that money?" And just channeling every desire I ever have, Sentomaru says on an extreme close-up on his face, "Onigiri!" And Bolsonaro finds this hilarious and laughs. And then we go back to the present with Bolsonaro saying, "You were so adorable back then." And then going back to the past with Vegapunk asking if Sentomaru would like to be his bodyguard. And Sentomaru saying, "You're giving me a job, I'll take it."
Any
hey,
job.
old man.
Any job. He'll take anything.
I love the idea that he's asking this very tiny child to be his bodyguard.
You know this is a long time ago because you could
Amazing.
see the top of Vegapunk's head in this panel.
Oh, that's true.
That is a
Wow.
first.
That's true.
Yeah.
The dumbest he's ever been.
It's the dumbest. Such an idiot. Oh my god.
What a chump.
Yeah, he's a chump. That's true.
Well, he's got somebody to take care of that bear problem that he has now.
Yeah, that's good. He's a bodyguard for bears specifically. Punk Hazard riddled with bears.
Do we think this is pre the scene between Vegapunk and Dragon?
It
Or after
probably
that.
because of his head size, but I don't know if that's.
Who's to say for sure? Well, I mean, we saw his full head in the flashback.
How old? No, it I thought it kept going into the next panel. I'm looking up
Let's
Sentomaru's
see.
age too. He's 34, so it was probably 25 to 30 years ago. That's before O'Hara, right? think
Yeah, I
it's
guess
just
we
before.
I guess we didn't quite see the tippity top, but we did see his Vegeta Widow's Peak. Widow's Peak. So
And then I remember the one where they show where his head would have been. It just keeps going behind the above panels and
That's
above
right.
the page. So yeah, this might be the first time.
Interesting, because that makes me wonder what Kizaru is doing here.
I love that that's
if-
a way to tell time. Is head size.
Yeah.
He's just like telling the rings, like counting the
Yeah.
rings
Yeah,
off
on
the
a
stump.
tree.
Anyway, Tiny Child Sentomaru saying, "Hey, old man, how am I supposed to protect Punk? Tell me!" to Kizaru, and Kizaru says, "Excuse me, you see this youthful skin?"
He looked old even when he was young, let's be honest here.
Yeah.
I know. Absolutely.
That may
Cutting
be the
back
worst
to
drawing of Kizaru Oda's ever done.
It's great. It's perfect, though.
I love it.
That's
Yeah,
when it
no,
should be
it's great.
bad. But the one before looks a lot like his actor, right, Joey? And you're the expert here.
Kunie Tanaka.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really the only way you can tell is the scraggly beard
Yeah.
and mustache.
Kind of looks like Leonard Nimoy without the beard.
Yeah. With his beanie.
Kizaru in the present saying, "I taught you everything I could, young Sentomaru," and then cuts immediately to Sentomaru doing a sumo strike. But ... Kizaru says, "My defense is just as tough as yours," and he just slams Sentomaru into the ground with a completely unnamed light attack that spawns
How
a
dare
huge
you.
explosion.
How dare Kizaru not name his attack only because he has 3 names. Not.
And that explosion just goes everywhere.
And Dave.
And then after the climax of that explosion, you see Kizaru's hand with the authority chip in it, and he says, "Pacifistas, now that your control tower is unconscious, there's a change of plans." And as he says this, you see a shot of the pacifistas going bing, 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 like they're at alert. He says, "Help the naval battleships, sink the sea beast weapons," and you get to see, I don't know which sea beast that is. Looks like
the
a
dog, the dog one. Yeah.
yeah, not a chump, just a chomp.
Just a
whatever.
cute, good
Yeah.
boy
Yeah,
robot
Clifford.
sea beast.
The Clifford Sea Beast. You see. Is it? I'm not sure who's reporting to Saturn, but we're getting a transmission on the Denden Mushi. The Pacifistas, as you see, the Pacifistas shoot the dog from the back in the back of the head, have changed tactics.
I don't think they're reporting directly to Saturn. I think he's just listening.
He has the wiretapping.
The black one.
Yeah,
Oh, I see,
yeah.
I see. So I'm not sure what message was sent to whom, but the statement is the pacifistas have changed tactics. And Saturn, listening in, says, "It's a shame, but if we can keep only one, it should be the pacifistas. Give me a report of the damages from the last few minutes." "Yes, sir."
Oh, I guess he
And,
was
it-
talking. Sorry.
It cuts then it cuts over to Punk Records, And cuts back to Usopp, who's been following very intently, and says, Sentomaru's down, still holding his CRT. And it cuts in on a shot of Sentomaru on the ground, who is looks to be unconscious. And you see, it cuts back to Vegapunk, who is just beside himself. He's crying. He's like, oh! And through tears, he says, hurry, take that shield system down! And he's right next to Atlas and, is that Edison? Yeah. Who are all hacking at the same time. And they say, I know! We can't let Sentomaru's sacrifice go to waste! And they're clickety-clacking on their keyboards, like hacking at the same time, because that's exactly how that works.
It is.
And it cuts over to York, who is still on the ground, looking very smug. And she says, forget it! I'm a Vegapunk too, you know! And it cuts back to an overhead shot of Kizaru, who's looking up, presumably at Punk Records, with a ... with the ellipses word bubble. And you can hear Vegapunk's voice, Stella's voice. Kizaru is light itself. He'll pass right through the laser barrier.
And on the next page, this comes as a very unwelcome news to Usopp, who assumed that he was totally safe behind an impenetrable barrier. He's like, what? Do you mean he's coming in here?
Vegapunk did say that literally 2 pages earlier.
Yeah. And then he says, yes, he is coming in here. But he totally wiped the floor with us years back. As now we can see what Kizaru was looking at. He's looking up at the little status bar up at the top, the HP bar for the shield system, which is currently at 100. And he is reminiscing, the Straw Hat crew. We had some times together. And then he does, with his little glint there, that is the... if you have forgotten, his fruit powers are styled as the glint fruit in English. So that's his... he's using his light powers to shoot upward. Pew! And then he goes, pew! Yes, in his funky little light form up through the ground there. And the crew now, as we will see in a minute, someone is saying, hurry up, once the barrier comes down, we're out of here. And you hear what turns out to be the Vega Force 1 going poof-oom, 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 just running on top of the pyrobloin. Yes, the Sky Island clouds. And someone is saying, all good so far. Just got to take the ship around the back. Please do. And so, yes, the Vega Force is running with the cradling the Mary, or the Sunny, I should say, gingerly in its hands as it makes its way toward the rear of the island where they will escape from. And suddenly there is an alarm going off, which interrupts Luffy and Bonnie, who are busy eating, of course.
And giant things of hunks of meat.
And Luffy is surprised by this, and Frankie asks up to, I guess, wherever the pilot is, what's this about, Lilith? And then we see Lilith, who is played here by Jake Lloyd, saying, an emergency alarm? Why? No one should be able to get in. Now this is Vega Forcing. And
Wizard.
I just love the helmet with the giant goggles. Yeah. It is so funny.
Yippee!
And then we get this really cool shot, like this really cool perspective of Kizaru shooting upward. You can practically see the like the video game like pixel effect of him going like as he comes into view. And with the environment of the Punk Records area up in the clouds in the background ahead of us. And he is saying, checklist to keep safe. The power plant, Punk Records, and York, who is actually a friend, it turns out. So he's going over what the mission parameters are here as he
his memory is notoriously shitty, it seems, from what we've learned. So.
Yeah, I love this panel. It's so cool looking. I love the Punk Records environment, like the mixture of cacti and palm trees and vines and stuff is such. It's very cool. Yeah. Mixed with this sort of like digital, like aesthetic. It's really cool.
I don't know how soon we're leaving, but yeah, no, considering we've been here for a long time now, it doesn't feel like it. Also because we left for a very long time. Ed.
So continuing on from that previous thought that Kizaru was having, the checklist to be eliminated, Dr. Vegapunk. After already, Sentomaru has already been crossed off the list. But we hear yelling, Kizaru's in the dome! Ah! Luffy and Usopp says, Luffy's group is out front. Run away, Luffy! Like, I guess that's Brooke says, oh no, that can't be good. And Stella says, the barrier's not going down until the ship's been moved into place. But as this is all happening, Stussy notices something, and Hattori goes flying, and Lucci dives in, going for Stella, and we see a foot move, and Stussy gets into position just in time, takes a finger pistol, a pretty brutal one, and she's coughing up blood, and Lucci's got this dark shadow cast over his face with blood all over his finger, and it's very brutal. And Stella is just appalled. Stussy! And she collapses to the ground. And so then Sanji takes something from Nami here, and Sanji has captured Kaku in with the bubble gun, and Sanji stating the obvious says, "Looks like he left you behind." Oops.
Kaku.
Yeah, Kaku. Yeah. He's gonna be adopted by the Straw Hat Crew now.
We can't have two weird-nosed people.
Finally, all of our guesses from Water 7 are coming
That's
true.
right. Wow.
We just need Polly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all we need.
Polly.
If Kaku joins the Straw Hats after they left us hanging with Yamato, I'm going to be so upset.
And he doesn't want to be there.
Bus fare.
Yeah.
No. Here's the perfect full circle moment with Kaku here. If Kaku gets abandoned, Zoro says, "Don't worry, I know the perfect place for you." And then cut to Kaku actually in a zoo.
Yeah.
Or was it the circus? Yeah, I think it was the zoo. This Kaku in a zoo exhibit, and Zoro was like, "Yep, told you should do this."
I love the sequence of panels of like the rush. It has a very like frenetic, like quick cut style to it. It's very effective.
I was like, oh shit, he's doing that. Steve, what's next?
Yeah, and then we have, speaking of, Zoro here blocking Lucci's V-trigger knee here. That's covered in armament hockey, but Zoro's swords are also covered in armament hockey as well. And Zoro says, "So you got backup and thought you could make your move, huh?" And Lucci says, "Between Kizaru and me, you're all dead." And then Zoro says, "Then you don't know us very well." And a very familiar sight of Lucci getting pushed right out of a building wall.
We need more of those. We haven't had enough.
I do, yeah. I'll talk about this at the end, but this is some interesting developments here. We cut back to Kizaru, who spotted the Vega Force robot, and the Sunny says, "No wonder I didn't see their ship on shore. It was up here." And we hear, hurry, he's an admiral. What do we do, Luffy? Huh? Luffy? And Kizaru reacts as we see some Vega boots on the ground here in the foreground. And Kizaru says, "Hello there, long time no." Boom! Here comes Luffy charging in with a kick.
Love that panel.
Kizaru blocks, but notice that he blocks it. He doesn't turn to lightning or anything. And Kizaru says, "Very bad manners." And we have Luffy here saying, "Kizaru, compared to 2 years ago, we're 100 times stronger now."
Fair enough.
That's where we wrap up.
Yeah. Thoughts on this chapter? Oh, we're off next week. Again.
Yes.
Yes.
Hopefully,
Next week
hopefully this is the last like super frequent
Yeah.
break for a while, because Oda did say that it was going to happen until the release of the live action. When we found out that he was, making trips to LA, that made a lot more sense. So I don't know. I'm hoping that we'll get back to like the 3 weeks on, 1 week off sort of thing soon.
Yeah.
That was my thought when I first saw that that article with the photo of him
Yeah.
in LA, I was just like, how is his schedule allowing for this?
Here,
Well, this is how,
when you see Oda somewhere, you should be like, oh, we're gonna have a week off soon. He can't have fun. Yeah, so we'll probably be doing volume 106 and maybe an SGS next week, depending on schedules. Steve, since you joined us a little later, I want to hear your thoughts first on this chapter.
Man, this was a fun chapter. It was getting cooking, and then it ended, and I was really, clamoring for more. And then the fact that we have another break is more salt in the wound. But the things I liked about it, well, I like Sentomaru's little flashback here. I love mini Sentomaru. The little Eric Cartman version of him. He wants to kick those bears in the nuts or something.
Respect his authority.
All right. I want to do it.
You guys.
I'm your bodyguard now.
I can't do it.
You better get it.
Ed does do a very good, season 1.
Screw you guys. I'm beating a bass.
I thought it was really cute. And now kind of knowing more of the history now between Kizaru and Sentomaru, because there always seemed to be some sort of connection there. Sometimes misinterpreted as them being blood related, but as we could see now, Kizaru was obviously just an older figure in Sentomaru's young life.
Sentomaru is the son of a mountain hag. That's the
He's the son of something.
It's the Kintaro story. It's a mythological figure.
I don't. Oh, I was gonna say Sentomaru feels like the result of if they mated segment from old episodes of Conan or something.
How?
Conan O'Brien, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kintaro is like a folktale character that looks exactly like Sentomaru, and he rides a bear.
Yeah.
So
Coming.
Yeah,
in our version,
he's
carries an axe.
one of the. He's one of the three. I guess they're the three probably most famous Japanese folk tales, which is Momotaro, Kintaro, and probably Urashimataro, the guy who goes down to the sea, which is what Fishman Island is partially based on.
When you think about it,
Tamatebako.
when you think about it, when we first see Sentomaru in the story, who's he paired up with? A duplicate of Bartholomew Kuma.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Because I was always curious about Sentomaru. It's he's a very specific character design, especially for someone who's in the Navy and was apparently involved with the science division there. So, I guess
Yeah, that
makes
never
sense.
really made sense.
Well, now it does. Very disappointed that Lucci's still a cop.
Well, we knew he betrayed us a couple of chapters ago, right?
Yeah, the last chapter, it kind of had the feeling. I'm like, it's like this could be, a swerve, but no, it wasn't. But who knows? The story's not over yet. But I do like now Kaku being a bubble. It's like, I'm in a bubble. But Kaku's our bubble boy now. It protects him from germs.
It's the moops.
But what I do
Seinfeld
like
joke.
is, haha.
Thank you.
There, I got to get a laugh. I do like now, kind of Zoro taking on Lucci here. It's like Lucci kind of being the former. It's like, I pair up with your leader, and now I kind of like Zoro here taking on the former main baddie of an arc. That's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And Luffy making a stand against an admiral, because when you think about it, he kind of fought Fujitora in Dressrosa, but then eventually ran away. This is the first time he's kind of gonna. Luffy wanted to stand his ground, and then
Right.
what was it? I think it was Haruden kind of just yanked him up and took him away. So this could very well be the first time Luffy has a conclusive fight with an admiral. Here's hoping, but sometimes the action isn't always the most interesting to cover in these manga recaps. But I'm actually really looking forward to seeing a Luffy versus Kizaru fight.
Yeah, unexpected. I don't know why unexpected, but anything else, Steve?
No, that's it.
Dave, your thoughts on the chapter?
It was it was a great chapter. I really liked the art in this chapter was just off the chain. It was so good. There were so many fun things to look at, and I know that like One Piece has gotten a lot denser in like the recent years, and there's always like, it almost feels like I'm like flipping through like a Where's Waldo book trying to catch all the things that he puts in.
Yeah.
Like I'm always looking for a wizard and a scroll in these like One Piece chapters. But and maybe it's not to everybody's taste, but I really enjoy, just going through and seeing all the things, all the jewels that he's left in for us. And, I guess this is up for, discussion, but I clocked in, Kizaru splitting in half as him actually dodging a thing, but maybe that's not it. But regardless, I'm also like kind of burned because ever since Sentomaru was introduced, I've been wanting to see Sentomaru do things because I think his design is like amazing, and I love the story of Kintaro and stuff like that, and seeing like the small bits of it in like Japanese media, and just him getting bodied, just him getting jobbed was like, it hurt so much. I wanted to see him kick at least a little bit of ass, and I think he's going to at some point, but it sucks that he just got like one shot, and then he's off. Uncle is off to the Punk Hazard Dome. I loved seeing the little bit with Thumb Boy with what was his name again? I forget.
He doesn't have a name.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I don't think he does.
Yeah, I'm just gonna call him Thumbs Jackson.
We called him Vice Admiral Patty Melt, but
Or
Thumbs
the Arby's
Jackson-
melt or whatever.
Arby's Melt.
Yeah, Arby Patty Melt it was great to see him because he was like the standout design in that group of like Vice Admirals. Seeing the Sea Beasts getting wrecked it's hard because they're just like, it's such a cool concept, and I just hate seeing them getting trashed. But I don't know, man. Like there's a lot to like dig into in this chapter. It's like is Stussy like I can't believe we got through the whole chapter without a Freddy Got Fingered joke. I thought that was gonna come at some point with Stussy.
Not enough sausage in this chapter.
Yeah, Daddy, would you like some? I don't know if like Stussy's down for the count, or she's like faking it to to do something like cooler afterwards. But it was great to see that little bit. It was great to see some development with like Vegapunk, just seeing more like him being like so close to like Sentomaru, and I hope we get more of that. Seeing Lilith do things, it's reminding me of like the previous chapters of Lilith saying like, "Oh, I've never been off the island," and like I'm bracing for like I'm worried that Lilith is just gonna eat it. Lilith is gonna be a casualty since we've seen some Vegapunks eat it. But all in all, it's good. Like I can't wait for. I've been waiting for Kizaru v Luffy for such a long time, and the whole line, like compared to 2 years ago, we're 100 times stronger. The throwback to, I think it was it Shaki's line from back in the day? It's like a direct reference to like something that was on Shibondi Archipelago.
She said that about Rayleigh when they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Rayleigh, he's like 100 times stronger, and the throwback to Luffy being trained by him, saying like, "Hey, guess what, fucker? I'm 100 times stronger." about to get wrecked. But I don't know, like I wish there was like more to say other than like it was just fun action, like some sentiments before. Like I just really want to eat in the locale of punk records. Like it feels like there's so much to see, and I hope we see a lot of it. I hope it isn't going to become one of those situations where like since like Elbaf has been like alluded to, and I wonder, and I was talking about this with some other people, and there's the thought that like, is this going to be a situation where like Luffy fights Kizaru and the crew has to go on ahead to Elbaf while Luffy finishes things up? Like I can see that happening narratively, but I don't want to see, like I want them all to go to Elbaf together.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know what's like. I don't know what's in store. Like, there's so much up in the air, and this feels like the great like first step, like the first pawn move of like a crazy chess game. Like excited for the egghead incident to like unfold more fully.
The idea.
Yeah, Kirsten.
Oh,
I was going to go to you.
The
next.
idea that, the idea that Luffy would stay behind while they still go to Elbaf, like especially assuming that Shanks is still on Elbaf,
Yeah,
would be devastating.
I know, like another
also-
near miss.
I also, when I was rereading 1090 today, I was like, I started wondering, like, what are the chances that they, like, everyone gets on the ship, they escape to Elbaf, they get to Elbaf, see Shanks, and Shanks kills Vegapunk.
Ooh,
Oh, that's interesting.
Wow.
Because we don't really know what his whole deal is, and, you know, he has some ties with celestial dragons.
That is true.
Yeah,
Much
I
like-
don't know.
much
I've
like
just
Zoro,
been kind
though.
of assuming that Shanks will be off of Elbaf by the time they get
Yeah,
there.
I thought so too. But
just my
also,
guess.
Shanks
I don't
is
know.
just as much a killer as Zoro. Like, I don't.
It's true.
remember that time he cut Kid in half? No, that was. A
I
joke.
mean,
The kid was already
cut his
messed
arm
up.
off. He cut his arm off, to
Yeah.
be fair. But Shanks is collecting arms, as we've previously discussed, and that's part of it.
collecting arms and grooming little boys.
Wow.
Wow.
You
Please
put it that
rephrase
way.
that.
Boy.
Kirsten, what did you think of this chapter?
Yeah, I mean, like everyone else has said, I had a great time. I am like, I refuse to believe that Stussy's out for the count. That would be a huge bummer, especially because we just learned about her devil fruit too, and we've barely gotten to see that in action. I want to see if Stussy is a vampire or not.
Yeah, me too.
And, you know, excited for Luffy v Kizaru. I do think even if Luffy doesn't make it, even if Luffy makes it back onto the ship in time, I feel like it's probably going to be like Luffy is a decoy while everything else like comes together, and it'll be like Zoro v Lucci and Luffy v Kizaru as everyone else tries to evacuate.
It's cool having like two really big antagonists and Luffy and Zoro, you know, one-on-ones like that. It's kind of crazy to think about.
I love all the like subtle insults to Lucci as well. Like the idea that in this situation, like Lucci is no longer worthy of fighting the captain. Like he has to deal with the first mate.
I love that he got demoted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deservedly, he lost.
Kagu just
Yeah.
got caught in a bubble.
Actually, Lucci already fought Luffy and lost.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
there
it's
you go.
perfectly understandable. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good fight. I enjoyed it. Lucci has his new.
He went Gear 5.
Yeah, he went Gear 5. Oh. Yeah, no, you know, I'll mention it after. Anything else, Kirsten?
No, that's about it.
Joey.
I had a good time.
Good.
I also had a good time. Yeah, this is a really fun chapter. A lot of action, like totally action packed. And I thought the action read really well. I'm really loving this, especially because I love Kizaru. It's probably my favorite admiral, just largely because I am such a big fan of the actor he's modeled after that we talked about earlier, Kunie Tanaka. Speaking of which, I've been wondering, he has this like flashback look that we've seen a few times where he has this like knit cap. And I've been kind of trying to place what that could be like based off of, like which Tanaka role that could be. And he's in a pretty famous, he has a famous role in a drama called Kita no Kunikara that, where he has like a knit cap that isn't exactly that shape, but I'm kind of wondering if that's what Oda's drawing off of there. But if anybody knows, hit me up. But yeah, I love Kizaru, not only because of that, but I just think his power is really cool. And like from an art perspective, you get to see Oda playing around a lot with like light and shadow and you know, screen tones and things like that. I love the sort of like way that he draws the light, like streaking.
Yeah.
It almost looks like liquid in a way. I think like in a different world, like those would all be very perfectly ruled so that they would look very straight. But Oda is a much more organic artist than that, so they look a little more blobby. But I think it has a very cool look to it in that way. So yeah, very exciting, and I love the sea beasts. The mouse was really cute and all that stuff. And I'm curious, like, where, we go from here. My initial instinct was to think that we weren't actually going to get too much of a fight between Luffy and Kizaru. But as everyone's been saying, maybe this is our chance to, like, finally see him, like, take down an admiral. And so that will have maybe a bit, maybe devote a chapter or so to it, just so that we can see him kind of reach this milestone, maybe get that third attack that we were talking about from Kizaru. So yeah, and the other thing, the big thing here is Lucci. After all of us kind of trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, where it's like, well, it looks like he's betraying them, but maybe he's not really betraying them. He's feeding the world government false information or something. Like, I actually kind of really love that it's just as simple as like, nah, he's just a dick. He's just so bad.
He's always been a dick, to be fair. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sometimes it's nice to have somebody who's kind of as simple as that and just be very hateable, and they don't have to go through a redemption arc. If he does eventually, that'll be very fun and satisfying too. But for the time being, it gives Zoro somebody cool to fight in a really interesting matchup too.
Unlike Zoro, Lucci actually does love murdering and loves it a lot and is very open about it and talks about it. So funny that the two of them are fighting. Anything else, Joey?
No, I'm good.
Steven.
Lucci was little Sentomaru. He's saying, "You're giving me a job where I can kill people? I'll take it." Yeah. That's how he got in with the government. I think the gosh, what was I gonna say? I think one thing that struck me as we were going over this chapter is like, it's easy for me, I think, to get kind of lulled into like the same old feeling, because Oda is so consistent with the way that he draws stuff and the way that he panels scenes. And so it's easy for me to forget until I like kind of sit back and look at like the, the mile high perspective of just kind of how crazy this current scenario is in terms of like the characters that are there and like the implications of, what could be about to happen. And what a sort of world scale event this could be. Maybe not, Marineford level big, but like, it's an admiral and emperor of the sea. Like, this is a huge deal. And it's really fascinating to think about the implications of that. I'm glad we talked about the Kintaro thing, because it's just such a random thing that, like, as soon as you saw Sentomaru in Sabaody, like, it was very obvious, to anybody who is familiar with Kintaro and with the iconography, because that's, he's basically a baby who wears that little apron with the swirls on it, and so like that's always been right up front and present. So it was fun to have like an opportunity to mention that here. And also to get, kind of, I think this is probably the best we're ever going to get, is in terms of like, what's the tie that brings Vegapunk and Kizaru and Sentomaru together. I don't know, maybe Oda had a more in-depth idea at some point, but, it kind of seems like this is his way of filling in that gap, but it was nice to see. I too, of course, yes, I love the Lucci, Lucci turning heel again, and I was thinking about this when he says, "You're all dead," and then Zoro retorts, "And you don't know us very well." So that line in Japanese was like, literally, it was kind of like, "Then I've been then we've been disrespected," or like, "Then you're disrespecting us," which is kind of a very stock sort of retort line. I like the way that I did that. You don't know us very well, because it does seem very appropriate that Lucci thought that this would work again a second time after he failed pretty spectacularly in Ace Lobby.
I thought it sounded like a Bugs Bunny line.
Yeah.
And failed earlier in this arc.
Yes, in this arc. Yeah.
Yeah, this is his third fail. Fool me once.
So yeah. There's this kind of undercurrent to Zoro's attitude of like, okay, yeah, you think you're in the clear now, huh? Just because your buddy showed up. That was fun. And the Luffy versus Kizaru thing, of course, is the big takeaway at the end. I tend not to think about Kizaru that much, just because I feel like we haven't really had like the pivotal moment with Kizaru the way that we have had with Aokiji and Akainu. And I was curious because the way that he speaks is always so specific, where, with all of his pauses and his like elongations and stuff like that, where I was like, I have to look up, because I felt like some of these lines were like, wait, is this something that he said like back in Sabaudi when we first saw him, or at Marineford or something? Like, am I missing some like secret favorite Kizaru quote that everybody's going to recognize and be like, oh, you forgot this thing? And so I went back to the chapter where it's not technically when he first appears, but like in Sabaudi, when we see him in silhouette, like at the end of one chapter, and then the next chapter is when we actually see him in full. And I was rereading that one, and it is such a good chapter. It's the one where it starts off with it starts off with the declaration of war color spread that's all vertical of the crew.
Very good chapter.
Yeah, they're posing, and it's the same chapter that has Luffy telling Rayleigh, I don't want to know the answer to what the One Piece is, because I don't want to go on any adventures that aren't fun or that adventures that are boring or whatever. And I was like, man, that was such a good chapter. So I'm hoping that, whatever we get out of this confrontation will have the same kind of iconic nature to it. Because, it's been a long time coming for sure.
His entrance was fantastic, where the mangrove is completely... Right,
Yeah.
I think that's right. Yeah,
Just shows up in an explosion of light, basically.
and he's using the wrong phone. He's the boomer, to be fair, of the admirals. Ed.
Yes. What's there to add here at this point? I like to see the battle of the pacifistas and the sea beasts. That might actually look pretty cool. I think it could look cooler in the anime. That's a lot of fun. Just sort of see the chaos of that moment, and the Straw Hats' reaction to it. And it's also it's a very, very volatile situation, and it's breaking down pretty quickly. So, is the Sunny going to escape? Can Luffy defeat an admiral, or at least escape from him in relatively short period of time? These are escalating conflicts, and really showing Luffy's status in the world, having defeated an emperor now at this point. Like, would an admiral have attacked Whitebeard at the beginning of the series, or the first time Whitebeard appears? This is his status as an emperor. He has to defend that. He has to continue to go over in these battles if he's gonna maintain that position. So, it's a precarious position, having just been promoted like that. So, Luffy's character, I think, is being tested as a legend. So, that's what Kizaru is here to do. And Sentomaru never really made sense to me. I mean, I understood what what the reference was to him, but I was not sure where the heart was supposed to come from. And I don't know. It still doesn't really make sense to me. But I do appreciate him. I found him to be very earnest. And I like that about him. Kizaru is still more of a mystery to me. I'm not really sure what his connection is to, even with what we get, we don't get much of their relationship in this, Kizaru and Sentomaru. But, I like Lucci. He's getting the short end of the stick. He has to fight the second in command now. But, Saturn... Yeah, he's still just sort of hanging around. He's not really doing anything yet. I guess he's anticipating the shields will go down at some point.
Something.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
You don't know.
He's standing there.
But
I was thinking about that. Like, I was thinking about like Saturn and the role he's going to play, and since he like everything that we've heard from Saturn is just like, yeah, well, sometimes you just gotta like jettison some crew, just like some things are just casualties, and it just makes me wonder with all that tee up, like, is he gonna end up like shit wrecking either Lucci or Kizaru? Is he gonna deem them as something that can be jettisoned for the sake of just? It's like we've got Luffy fighting Kizaru, we've got Zoro fighting Lucci, so where does that leave what is Saturn going to be doing? Is he just gonna sweep in at the end and just like fuck shit up, or I don't know?
I assume Saturn's there because he's the top of the chain of command for the Pacifistas.
That's what I was, and the Seraphim.
Yeah, and the
even
Seraphim.
if Luffy defeats
More
like-
importantly,
Yeah, it's like even if all the Vegapunks are fine and are there, like if Saturn's there,
Yeah,
no way.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
True.
It just makes me like wonder, like, when is like this? We've got a reiteration of like statement from like Lucci. It's like, oh, now that me and Kizaru are here, it's like, oh, like you guys are fucked. And there's a part of me that's always like, is there going to be a subversion of that, like, in some way or some shape? And it seems like an Oda-esque thing to do, of like Lucci being like, we did it, fuck you guys, and then just Saturn just like punching a hole through him. Yeah,
Screw you guys, we're going home.
and,
Go to Elbaf.
Yeah.
we're going to Elba. I wonder. I forgot. I was going to say something off of that. But Ed, did you have anything you wanted to say?
I love that. I love that page that I had with. I love the action with Lucci going after Stella and Susie jumping in the way. It plays out pretty much entirely physically. I like that. Hattori flying up, and it's with the bird flying. It's a very John Woo. Very John Woo scene.
It's very hard boiled.
Very Mission Impossible too.
Senior Pink. Yeah.
Anything else that?
No, that's it.
I'm gonna make my comments uncharacteristically short. First, I'm very curious what Gear 5 Luffy versus Kizaru would look like.
Yeah.
I can't like even fathom that. I think I love the idea. I mean, everything is so consequential to the end game at this point in the story that it makes me wonder just how all of this is being put together. And I agree with Steven. I think it's just reading week to week, being involved week to week, you kind of be like, oh, it's just another chapter, some fighting, this happened. And this feels like one of those. But when you like think about it for more than a second, you're like, oh, there's some really crucial things happening here that could affect everything. I had something very profound to say about Saturn that I have completely forgotten.
Oh, sure you did.
Yeah.
Well, can I comment on the
Please,
Luffy
Joey, maybe
versus
I'll remember.
Kizaru thing?
Yeah.
You asking about like what is the fight between them going to be like? I've been wondering about like if somehow the future sight gives him the ability to quote unquote move faster than light. If he can kind of predict where someone made out of light is going to move, does that give him the advantage to to
That's a good
usurp
question.
him?
Yeah. The very profound thing I want to say, I think the reason Saturn is there is Uranus, or the mother flame. That's the reason he's there. I mean, they mentioned all the other things, which important, and the power plant, which I assume is the means behind the mother flame, right? And so it was the power plant, York, and what was the third thing that they needed to protect? I think he's
Punk Records.
Punk Records. So I mean, I'm sure we'll see more about Punk Records too, but I think this arc is about the mother flame, and maybe even Luffy being able to run away with it, or run away with the concept of it, since he will have Vegapunk. I don't have anything else to say. Good chapter. I agree with what everyone else here said. Any other thoughts?
You get Steve's thoughts?
Did I? Yeah.
In the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, earlier on. I mean, we could hear more from Steve if Steve wants to say.
Well, no, that was like 45 minutes ago. I'm good.
Okay.
Okay.
Have you guys talked at all, like in previous podcast episodes, of the implications of Frankie and Vegapunk in this arc? Because it's moving really, really fast, and I don't want Egghead to end as quickly as I'm assuming it's going to end.
Yeah.
But I just really wanted Frankie and Vegapunk to have more time together.
You get that last chapter, kind of.
You get one panel.
For one panel,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a part of me that really wants Frankie to change out his cola to green blood, as Frankie to be the vessel of devil fruit powers, via green blood.
Green blood?
In this whole
that's
what's
what
inside
the
Pacifist
Seraphim.
Oh! I forgot about that. Yeah, sorry.
The things that are coursing through
while.
the Seraphim, it's like a liquid, and I'm like, oh, Frankie's got a place for liquid. And, it's since they've hinted at, since they've already shown Senior Pink's power and, other powers, things that Frankie specifically knows, it's are we going to see a world where Frankie can use that swim, fruit, through his, talking to Vegapunk? Is, Frankie going to be the de facto, devil fruit user, interchangeable devil fruit user, of the crew, or at least be able to harness that in some way in future.
That feels like one of those theories that if it doesn't come true, you'll be like, missed opportunity. They could have done that. And there's so many of those.
It is kind of crazy. We were talking about sort of the general downgrade of Frankie post time skip, and it's man, remember when he did the gag where all the different bottles of liquid from the fridge in Ennius lobby, that stuff is
Changed,
so funny.
yeah.
And then
there's a part of me that holds on to it, maybe that hasn't been forgotten. The whole, if he drinks tea, then he becomes chill. He becomes lo-fi chill beats to study to.
He's a farmer.
I like that, Frankie. Was that the tea? He was the farmer.
That was the veggie juice.
That was
vegetable juice.
We'll get back to that another time. Steve is right. We did start
Vegetable
this
punch.
6 hours ago. Why don't we move on? If you're all ready to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
This is the anime recap for episode 1074, I Trust Momo, Luffy's final powerful technique. I'm your host Sam, and today with me we have Dr. Pepper's own Steve Yurko.
23 flavors of Yurko. I prefer the diet.
That is insane.
Really? I like Diet Dr. Pepper.
I guess it's always what you're used to. I like the I like the diet colas better, but diet anything else it's I can taste it's it just tastes more metallic or something weird.
Maybe there's 21 flavors instead or something.
Well, it feels like they added a weird 24th flavor that tastes like cement.
Well, to each their own.
So this is a special week because we finally have a new opening. I believe the last paint went for... Did that reach the longest running opening record?
Did it? I never actually looked at something
got
like
close
that before.
at least. That one went for
totally
a long time.
I totally forgot paint went on for that long because it started after the Odin flashback, and that was that was over a year ago at least. Wow. Are you looking this up right now, or are we just...
Nope.
Oh, okay.
But we've got a new one. This is The Peak by Sekai no Owari. It is directed by Megumi Ishitani. Golden Girl of the One Piece animation team.
Yeah, all the rage.
So there's up front, it's odd the way that they spend the first 30. The way that the last few openings put aside a kind of like a preview window.
Yeah, we almost thought, it was ironic because, we talked about how like, oh yeah, now it's like one point, like, like a little chunk of openings now are dedicated to having like today on the One Piece anime. So we thought, yeah, I guess they're getting rid of those now. Good. And then the first half of this opening is a clip show within a letter O.
Yeah, the first 30 seconds are. It's just like it's like you're looking at like a porthole on a submarine or something. Just this tiny little window where you're seeing these very faded out clips from previous episodes. A lot of Ishitani episodes. So like I guess that's their workaround for the director being like, okay, I can guarantee you like a minute of amazing shit. But you're gonna have to find a way to fill the rest of the time. But
then like the actual when the Ishitani, the new material kicks in, it's pretty great.
I wanted to cry.
Oh wow! Really struck an emotional chord, huh? I like the motif of keeping like O or a circle, whatever you want, like in the center, and just having things that using that as a motif. I thought that was very interesting, and it's a very different opening. No other One Piece openings like this. This is more about a vibe than just like here's the zany booming action of One Piece. Here's the adventure that is One Piece. This was not that opening.
Yeah, so like I guess like a non-criticism I'm kind of gonna make is that it kind of covers the same emotional territory as the ending is, where it's like where it's this very like peppy but like serene feeling song where the emphasis is on the post arc that's going to be coming up, like our time in the aftermath of the Kaido fight on Wano, hanging out with everybody, and just this very breezy, isn't life amazing kind of feeling. I was really it's like I'm just so genuinely touched by it. I
mean, the fact that the opening's leaving with that is that's a good thing. I think I was just like I was definitely kind of blindsided because it was not what I was expecting. Not that it was bad. The clip show thing kind of felt like a bit of a kick in the gut. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, like it does. Like there isn't a full. Like it's just not a full opening. It's just not like it's not even like a particularly structured. Like the part that we get isn't even particularly structured aside from like the motif. Like there isn't
like even so much.
There isn't like a beginning, middle, end like structure to it or anything.
No. And when the song credits pop up with the band and the song, what is the band and the song title again?
It's The Peak by Sekai no Owari.
Sekai no Owari. Okay, yeah, like it almost felt like those credits were also part of the animation. All right, because I think I had like a special font too, and it was kind of distracting. Like it almost feels like this is like a collab. Like this feels like a commercial or like a YouTube short. It's beautiful. It's just I gotta let it sink in for a bit. I've watched it a couple times. The song definitely, when the song picks up, is starting to grow on me. I think it's probably gonna be an enjoyable listen when the full version is out, or it might be out already. I think I was hearing. But when I listen to the full version, I mean, I just think it kind of it starts out so quietly. It makes me think Wano would have served this opening better if the anime was still doing cold opens like it did during Water 7.
Yeah, I saw you tweet about that. Do you mean like they should kind of like do a J cut, like have the song bleed in and then like when
not necessarily bleed in, just I think like because there was a lot of Water 7 episodes where it kicks off it shows open. And then cuts the opening. The way the song starts, it just feels like it serves it better because, I watch it on Crunchyroll, and you get like this big bombastic toy animation, intro, and then it's just this little quiet start to this opening. I think I'm just like really taken by surprise by it. I think it's
it really does feel like something else is supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And
I wonder.
Yes.
I wonder, like, I forget if this was originally supposed to come out when the new ending came out. I think that might just be speculation, but like I just wonder. I'm like, is the animation for this going to change at some point?
Yeah, was this a time constraint thing? Was it? Is it just simply because it's like mostly one director? Like does Ishitani draw all that herself, or is like what's going on? I don't know what the whole process is.
Yeah, I'm the wrong guy to ask, but it's definitely everything is like in her style. But
right,
it also makes me think it's like knowing what we know, probably the amount of like Wano arc stuff that the anime has left to cover isn't going to be that much to warrant having a long-lasting opening. This almost kind of feels like a fight together.
Mm-hmm. It like the vibes at the opening and ending, and like the emphasis that they're putting on the post arc, like it kind of does. Like I would be down for like some substantial filler of just hanging out in Wano after the fight. Like I wouldn't be against that. Like I feel like if they made a little mini arc out of just the aftermath here.
I could see it happening. Definitely. I mean, we've had so many Barto specials and stuff. Like, why not just do some? I don't want to get into too much. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if anyone strictly just listens to our anime recap and knows next to nothing about the manga. But for this, for the sake of not spoiling, I don't want to talk too much. But I think there's plenty the anime has to work with that the manga kind of had to speed through, and I'll just leave it at that. So.
Yeah, I like your cold open idea. I like because I would love it if like they did it with the song bleeding in. Like we do a cold open, like they show us part of the episode, and then you hear the song creeping up, and then when it's ready to like break into the actual real animation, that's when that starts with Luffy like breaking through the screen basically.
Yeah. Oh, and the fourth wall stuff with Luffy too is great in this.
Yeah. Like you see Gear 4 Luffy and like he's like moving through the logo. Mm-hmm. Or Gear 5th. Did I say Gear 4th?
You might have said Gear 4th, but it's fine. Nice save.
All right. Well, the episode itself begins at 3 minutes exactly. It opens with Momonosuke is in the process of getting new like floaty orange clouds made. Because this bitch is about to fall. And I saw on Twitter Henry Thurlow did a lot of the Momonosuke drawings here.
Oh.
So this is Momonosuke. He's making the fire. Yamato's like hanging out on his shoulder. We get some pretty chunky flashbacks of Momonosuke as a child during the time when the castle's burning. And Toki is preparing to send everybody into the future.
Here's where I was getting nervous with this episode because I thought, "Ooh, they're saving themselves some time here," and there's like a lot of flashback clips and stuff. And this is what I was worrying for a moment. I was thought like, "Oh, this might be an easy anime recap," but
it looked new.
So maybe like the shot of Momonosuke walking away from Toki seemed different, but that just might be my memory at this point.
I guess like
but the rest of
maybe my memory is wrong.
I don't know. To me, that looked like from those episodes. Damn, and I'm like watching that in the dub right now, and I haven't watched it in a bit. So I mean, if it actually is new material, then I'm mistaken. But but something felt different though. It felt like another like director's vision watching those clips because the rest of this episode is something else.
We come back and we're in the middle of Luffy and Kaido's Daft Punk concert with like the just like bouncing around the lightning bolts that I guess like Luffy has turned into rubber, and he's like swinging on, and the lights. It's just like a laser light show of just like straight lines, kind of like waving around. And like, so
yeah, it's the motif of like the lightning bolts. Yeah, because I was just like, what's with all like these diamonds and stuff? And I realized I'm like, oh yeah, it's the lightning. He's playing around with the lightning.
And like now, so they're doing their big, crazy, beautifully animated clashes. The we're doing the field, the battlefield just feels enormous as they're just like flying across like large spaces. Now Luffy's the one who's got the like scary red, like in the Vincent Chanzard sequences, like when it was Kaido versus Yamato, and Kaido looked super demonic and he had the red eyes and the black face. Now Luffy gets that too, and then Kaido gets to do it again later in the episode, or later in the fight scene. They're just demons going all out on each other. And Kaido's talking about, it's like, oh, your devil fruit isn't all that. You have a super powerful fruit, but everyone knows that devil fruits aren't important because Roger didn't have one. It's all about hockey. I've got hockey. Unlike
Hockey's
you.
Hockey's the new in thing right now. Yeah, it was so weird for him also to talk about hockey so much when clearly it was like, well, Luffy's got that too.
Yeah, he's just trying to belittle the Nika fruit. And then there's there's just blatantly the DBZ Super Saiyan like power up, the sound.
Yeah, there's sometimes it's a bit much for me. I'm like, and maybe because I've watched too much like DBZ, I'm just like, oh come on now. But hey, it's their stock.
And Kaido uses the Destroyer of Death Thunder Bagua. And he hits Luffy really hard in the face with the club. And that brings us to the eye catch of the episode. We get a scene of down at the fire festival. Everyone's been lighting their lanterns and like writing their wishes on it, and now we're seeing them all like kind of slowly. They're lifting them up, letting them fly into the air. Toko's doing her. I was like, oh, I hope you reach, Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
Kaido is he's going like dragon mode again. He's trying to create this big wind tornado of I guess wind slashes, and he's like, oh, you're still vulnerable to slashes. You still got that same weakness. And so like Luffy is just taking all these like tornado cuts, and we come back to the castle, and Orochi still not dead apparently, just in flames and shouting aggressively like, I'm gonna kill you, like he's clearly lost.
He's going crazy. Yeah,
but
well,
he's
this is the part where he said
back.
like, yeah, well he said like, oh hey, the ground shaking like undid these needles here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Because this is when I could tell. I'm like, oh hey, it's like, because I thought I'm like, okay, like the Luffy and Kaido stuff is gonna be cool and all that, and then it's kind of gonna probably settle down again. But no, I could even tell like there was like an eye for details in this scene with Hiyori and Orochi too. Like just the way they were moving and stuff was really
Yeah, Orochi looks cool. Yeah. Even though he's like he's just like desperation. I've clearly lost. Mm-hmm. Die, bitch, die.
He's snapped. I mean, fair to him, but even like Hiyori too. Like Hiyori was kind of moving around a little bit more, not just like staying stagnant. It was just like, I'm like, okay, this episode's really going for it.
It's got kick.
Mm-hmm.
Hyogoro and the other Yakuza bosses, they're hyping up the troops. They're like, hey, if Luffy, if that Straw Hat fellow doesn't win, then it's gonna be on to us to finish the job. And all the samurai at this point are like, okay, why not? We're feeling ourselves tonight, so let's get ready to save everyone and make Wano a better place and all that. We got Usopp and Hamlet running through the flaming halls, but then get washed away from Jinbei and Raizo's water techniques that are just sort of like blasting through the castle now.
Yeah, we knew that was going to be a little sloppy.
There's a little bit where Kinemon and Kiku get kind of like bucked off of Hamlet's back, and Usopp's like, no! And it's like, freeze frame, dramatic moment. What's going to happen? They're probably going to be okay. And then we have this like gorgeous scene of Hitetsu and Otoko holding hands and like looking up at all the lanterns. Mm-hmm. And it's, like the blue night sky, just like the dots of lights and stars and lanterns going up. I love the kind of the blue and the orange. Just absolutely beautiful. Like really, really gorgeous.
Yeah,
and in the background, I
was just like, yeah.
In the background, like the thunder and lightning, it's just the, just like when the lightning is just lighting up the clouds. Like we're not seeing like the lightning bolts from here, but we're seeing the distant lights and the thunderclouds and the kind of the vague impression of Luffy's silhouette, which is just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Just amazing, like so atmospheric, so cool. Hyogoro, he's having all these like 4x3 memories of samurai fighting, and then we get this cool shot of he's remembering like the gravesite that Shutemaru was standing before earlier in the arc, like all the graves of the samurai who died trying to fight Kaido and stuff, and like they're reflected in Hyogoro's glasses with this like very interesting like kind of pinkish multicolor tint to it. Just looks cool, looks very atmospheric. Hyo is just like kind of smiling to himself, like he's in this moment of like, I might be ready to die, I might be, we're all fighting to live. I just kind of feel like everything's just right now.
It kind of feels like I'm like, oh, we're like heading an endgame vibes.
Yeah, and so Luffy in his Gear 5 form, he's doing his Gear 5 version of a big giant fist, humongous, giant, ginormous, biggest fist that Luffy's ever made.
Mm-hmm.
Yamato's like, I think he could punch a hole through Onigashima, and so now the concern is, okay, we have to keep Onigashima afloat, because otherwise the outcome of this battle is just going to completely trash it. Luffy's shouting, Momo! And then we get the Drums of Liberation version of Overtaken. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. And Luffy's communicating to Momonosuke. He's like, I trust you! And like this like, I love the drawing of Momonosuke's face. Like it's got that cool sketchy look. Like you can just feel how it's like drilled right through him, and he's having these memories of his mom. Right, and like it just like kind of all comes together for him. And this is something that the manga was kind of like distinctly lacking is like, Momonosuke finding the courage inside of himself.
Right. Kind of just
it just kind of felt like that happened because it had to happen in the manga, and here it's like this culmination of, like him really getting some perspective on like how much people are depending on him.
Mm-hmm.
Just works. It's just great. And then the episode wraps up with Luffy. He's like kind of finished winding up his punch, and now he's like in the he's in the beginning motions of throwing the punch, and then the screen kind of flashes into the to be continued screen. General thoughts on this episode, Steve?
I really like this episode. Like I think what made it even better was because I kind of thought it was going to be just like a middle of the road kind of episode, saving up for something bigger, and I was very wrong, very, very wrong. And just some beautiful animation, but just some brilliant choices in directing and shot composition, and and like just the way a lot of the characters were staged, or like the lighting just really sold the moment. Like I'm thinking even the stuff with Hyo too, like that stuff felt like, wow, like it's not just a character on the screen saying, oh, I think everything's gonna be all right. The way it was lit, the way, like the way, like, the camera, I should say, was positioned with him. It just like, it was from above, looking down on him. It felt like, like hopeful, and like it conveyed that hopefulness, and just,
it's like all the things it's like all the little feelings that would be so easy to take for granted. Like I wouldn't say Hyogoro is one of my favorite characters of all time. Like he's all right, he's fine. But like this episode, I'm like, oh, like I can just feel those like decades of just like pain and hope and just like how amazing it is to have someone like Luffy to count on now.
Yeah, like I said, I was very happy with this episode. Like, good one to tack on like a new opening too. Mm-hmm. It's just,
good one to tack on a new opening. Good one to, like we're in this phase of Wano where everything has to pay off now. Everything has to be the best it's ever been. Mm-hmm. Good episode for when the live action is coming out and we're just thinking about One Piece a lot.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like the live action is kind of just stolen like some of the hype from the usual One Piece media lately, and that's not a bad thing. But it's just, it's a great chapter this week, and great episode of the anime with the live action too. It's like hell of a weekend for One Piece.
Yeah, I'm feeling One Piece is good. Did you know this, Steve?
Yeah.
Did anyone tell you about One Piece, Steve?
I haven't really had the time to think about it. But I'm starting to think One Piece is pretty good.
Yeah, I thought this was a fantastic episode. I'm in my feelings lately about One Piece.
Good.
It's good. Everything's going to be okay.
Hope we can say the same about next week's anime episode, but I would say so.
All right. Anything else you'd like to say before we move on to the next segment?
Nah, I think we said it best.
All right. Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you, Sam.
This has been the One Piece Podcast, episode 785 for the week of September 4th, 2023. We had so much going on, we forgot to mention there's a brand new opening for the anime, which I'm sure Sam mentioned, if he did his anime recap. So I mentioned it. A few big pieces of news for our Maji Media Network. We have a new member podcast for that. I'm going to cut this out.
You can do it.
Shoujo Sunday. I don't know why my brain. We have a brand new podcast joining the Maji Media Network called Shoujo Sunday. Please check it out. They do great work. It's at shoujosunday.com. And check us out at maji.media for all the cool stuff coming up. Also, check us out at Patreon at patreon.com/One Piece Podcast for ad-free episodes, alternate images, alternate titles, the full Forced to Watch 4Kids series with Steve and Alex, and a lot more cool stuff. We've talked a lot about things, so I'm going to let everyone say where people could find you. Dave, where could people find you?
You can find me on any social media that you please under the name Scrotum Nose. That's, well, you know how to spell that. And that is really what it is. I'm surprised that nobody's taken it across the various media. Scrotum Nose. X.
No.
Or Instagram, or
no. You could say scrotum as much as you want on this podcast,
but no X.
Don't.
No X,
but not X.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's where we draw the line.
Yeah, but that's where to find me online. I do storyboards and animation. I work in the cartoon industry. I think it was said earlier, Craig of the Creek, supervising director on that. I did storyboards on OK K.O, and now I think I can say this. It was already announced. There's an Among Us show coming out, and I'm doing storyboards on that.
Oh, cool.
And that's it.
Thanks, Dave. Fun having other crackpot theorists on.
Yeah, I was holding myself back.
Next time.
I can. Yeah, next
time we'll go
when
nuts.
It's more appropriate.
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be. I'll keep you in mind for an episode that just goes nuts. For a chapter that goes nuts. Kirsten, where can people find you?
Yes, I'm on Twitter at KIRCAREY. And then for other social media things, you can add GTR to that because I locked myself out of my own Instagram account back in college. So I made a new one. You can also find my band Throwaway at The Real Throwaway. If you are in Stone's Throw of Detroit, we are playing this Saturday at the Pike Room at the Crowfoot Ballroom, opening for Deerhoof, which is
what?
If you're not,
That's awesome.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, if you're not coming for us, come for Deerhoof because they're the best band alive.
Love Deerhoof.
Yeah,
I saw them at the 40 Watt a couple years ago. They were awesome.
Yeah,
That's
they're
super cool.
incredible, and they're so nice. They're the nicest people. Like dream shit for me. So yeah, that's my plugs.
There's always more. Joey, where can people find you?
I'm Joey Weiser on Twitter and Blue Sky, and Joey Weiser Comics on Instagram. My Twitter is still a lot more just kind of like talking about whatever comics I'm reading or movies I'm watching and stuff. Blue Sky is a bit more stripped down as I don't check it as much, but follow me on there and there will be less clutter in your timeline. And then Instagram is purely professional, where I post about my comics and illustration and events. Please check out my graphic novels, Dragon Racer and Ghost Hog and Mermin. And please see me if you're in the Baltimore area this weekend, September 8th through 10th. I'll be at Baltimore Comic-Con, where I'll have my graphic novels, mini comics, zines, and prints, including a One Piece print. So I'm in the Kids Love Comics area, and I'm really excited. I haven't done this show in years and years, and I've never been in this like specific kids area, which is really exciting. So come out and check out my work and talk to me about One Piece.
I'll make sure to send my friends around and say hi.
Awesome, thank you.
I'm excited to buy the whole Joey Weiser collection when in a couple years, I think. Right? Like, I don't know how. I don't know.
I mean, my nieces and nephews love them, so yeah, totally.
No, I he doesn't really read beyond the letter A at the moment.
Eventually,
Just like me.
Steven.
You can follow me on Twitter at Translatosaurus. I'm pretty much at this point. I'm only like retweeting work-related stuff there, so you can't keep up on what I'm doing. If you want to follow me for more actual like general tweets and yes, pictures of Simba, you can follow me on Blue Sky. I am at Stephen Paul. Whatever the generic thing is.
You could use that. I offered it. We've talked about this before.
My life exists outside of the One Piece podcast, Zach.
What? Everyone. What? Steve, where can people find you? Love how we've entered the era of social media. Who the fuck knows what's going on? Ed, how could the people find us?
Well, for now, you are Zach_Logan on Twitter still. I'm still Edward D. One Piece. I'm also on Blue Sky whenever that opens up. Podcasts can be found at the new and improved OnePiecePodcast.com, Twitter.com, YouTube.com, Facebook.com, not Facebook, Instagram.com/OnePiecePodcast. OnePiecePodcast@gmail.com is our email address. Please support us patreon.com/One Piece Podcast. You can subscribe on SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, and call us on our phone number, Zach.
That phone number is 347-497
Maji.
That phone number again, 347-497-6254. Call anytime.
Anytime.
With your questions, comments, theories, or whether this is Vega forcing. Now, we're all done. We'll see you next week with our recap of Volume 106, maybe an SGS, maybe some other... we have an interview with the voice of Jimbei, Daniel Bow, and excited for that, and we'll be back for the manga the following week. But until then, my name is Zach.
My name is Ed.
We'll see you next time, everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
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 Goodbye.
Bye.